All right, we're going to call to order the January 22nd, 2018 Royal Oak City Commission meeting to order. We're going to start with an invocation given by Commissioner Gibbs, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
As I have been blessed with the privilege to deliver this evening's invocation, let us all ponder some thoughts what Royal Oak means to all of us. Royal Oak on a map is but a topographical, tripping over my tongue, location with 2 zip codes. It is buildings, streets, schools, parks, and houses. Those items do not separate it from any other city. What Royal Oak is the people who live, work, play, and hope for the best for our fair city. We as individuals, en masse, create the city for what it is and what we hope it to be. We can all agree that the true dream for our city is to be the best that it has ever been, and to be a city for all, so that we can enjoy the city at its very best. That can only come from the efforts and attention of our citizens. Let us always start the day and end the day, first and foremost, wanting to be neighbors. There will always be challenges before us. It is us before I, it is we before me. Let us always resolve to face those challenges together, and let us always resolve to make Royal Oak better today than it was the day before. Finally, let us resolve to leave Royal Oak, for those that follow us, a city better by our combined efforts, and challenge those who follow to make it even better for all. May we all be blessed as a community. Thank you. Amen.
Amen.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, that brings us to item number 4 on the agenda tonight, which is the Royal Oak versus Madison Heights Recycle-Off Challenge. All right, so a little friendly competition can go a long way, not only for our pride, but for doing good by our planet. For those of you who don't know, we announced it a little bit ago. Judy Davis did an amazing job getting the word out. But we thought we'd take the opportunity here, not just to inform everyone, but motivate them to make Royal Oak the first champion here as it relates to this recycle-off. So the rules of the game, very simple. We're going to use January as a baseline for each city, and then starting February 1st, the city that recycles the most for 3 months, we're going to tally it up at the end. Whoever has the greatest change in the amount of material we've recycled wins. And so I'm not sure what the side bets are with Brian Hartwell, the mayor of Madison Heights, but let's put it this way. It's going to be really embarrassing, I imagine, if we lose, for not just me, but for everybody. So I'm encouraging every resident to do what we're doing really well already. We got the big bins. I think we have the big spirit here in Royal Oak, and I think we're going to get the big win. So let's make sure we show Madison Heights who we are. And feel free to trash talk as long as we keep it polite. Judy, did I miss anything? Is there anything else we need to communicate? All right, wonderful. I'm Madison Heights. You can ignore that announcement. You can continue doing what you were doing before. All right, after that wonderful PSA, we are now going to commence public comment. So, for those of you who are new here tonight, the City Commission values and does rely on citizen input to make decisions. Now's the time set aside for the public to address the City Commission on any city-related issues, both on the agenda and not. I ask that your comments be directed to the City Commission as a whole and not to individual commissioners. Public comment will be the only time to speak and address the City Commission tonight, as there are no public hearings. If you wish to speak tonight, please wait till you're recognized by me, the mayor. Come up to the podium. For the record, if you can state your name and address, that'd be great. Please be mindful that the City Commission does want to hear from everyone who wishes to speak, so comments are limited to 5 minutes or less, and we have a wonderful timer here at the podium to help you keep track of your time. If you don't wish to speak tonight, that's all right. You can always reach out to us. Many people do. They send us letters, emails, they call us on the phone, and let us know what your comments are. Please note that the City Commission will not respond directly to questions during public comment. However, we are taking notes and will address questions when the agenda topic is discussed, or refer to the proper city department if the matter isn't scheduled to be discussed on the agenda for this evening. And our city manager, as always, expert note taker, is taking copious notes here, so he can get follow-up to the urgent issues that are out there. So with that, who's first tonight? Yes, ma'am.
Good evening, City Commissioners and Mr. Mayor. My name is Jan Bills. I live at 624 Detroit Avenue, and I'm here tonight to tell you once again about our February 8th. It's on a Saturday, free community workshop, and it is on how to prevent and humanely control rats in our community. So just a couple quick things I wanted to tell you that we'll be having at the workshop. We're going to have Stage Nature Center there, which we're very excited about. They're going to have 2 live raptors, which we think the kids are really going to love so that they can get up close and personal with the raptors. We're going to have Ferndale Rat Patrol, and they are master trappers. So they're going to be there, and they're going to help teach everybody how to humanely trap and dispose of rats. So I know it doesn't sound real good, but it's what we need to know. We'll have the bird's eye view there, and they're going to teach people about owl houses, and if they want to construct their own, they'll have some there if anyone's interested in it. We have friends coming, hardware, because they're going to help residents with how to secure, if you have a rat problem around your perimeter, how you can secure or possibly under sheds, the proper tools and equipment to use to do that. And then also we have our very own Royal Oak Nature Society coming, so we're excited about that. And then lastly, the Girl Scout Troop number 71437 and 75084 is going to be there as well. They are going to earn their bronze award, and what they're contributing, because they have a project on sustainability, so they will be there to help at the workshop, but in addition to that, they're going to be at different locations handing out information about the February 10th event. So that is so cool. We were so excited when they contacted us. We will also have our very own City Royal Oak. We'll have a table there, and they will also share some information from the city side. So I want to first thank Mr. Johnson and Judy Davids. I appreciate their support. We appreciate their support so much in this task that we've taken on. And then lastly, I have flyers. If anyone, I know you all have them, but if anybody wants some, I have plenty of flyers. And then in conclusion, I want to thank the commission for putting the Good Shepherd back on the agenda tonight. So thank you so much, and we hope to see you on the 10th.
Thank you, Ms. Bills. Thank you for your efforts.
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah.
I think we both had questions for Ms. Bills, if we may.
I think she had a couple minutes left, even though,
It's a quick question.
okay.
So I just want to clarify, because at the very beginning you said February 8th, but you meant February 10th.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, thank
very
you for
good.
that
Good
clarification.
clarification.
Yes, and it is free.
And that was noon until 3?
Oh, good point. Yes, it is noon until 3, so it's going to be an open house. So you can come at your leisure. There'll be tables set up, and you can go get the information that you need. So February 10th on Saturday. Thank you.
And that's a senior center?
Commissioner. Yes, yes, seniors. If you need a flyer, just feel free. I have plenty of them. You can also go on our website, Royal Oak Rats. Well, it's actually our Facebook page. All the information is there. So we're so excited to have this for the city. So we'll
February
see.
10th?
February 10th, Saturday, 12 to 3, open house. Come as you please. Bring the kids. Lots of good fun for the kids and for the adults.
Perfect.
Okay, see you there.
Good questions. Mr. Regan.
Hey, good evening. My name's Tom Regan. I live at 3126 Glenview, and I'm here to speak in defense of the sewer line insurance program, and I'm kind of surprised that I even have to do it. But I discovered the sewer line insurance program when I got the letter from the city, and I want to thank you for sending that. I mean, I'm a fairly well-read person, but I had no idea such a thing existed. And when I found out about it and I saw that the city had vetted the program, and I saw the price of $88 a year, I said, that sounds like a good deal. So I signed up for it, and it saved me. I mean, within a year, I had a sewer line clogged, and I called them. They came out within 24 hours, cleaned the sewer line out just like the program promised. I mean, it works really well. I was really surprised to pick up the Daily Tribune and see we had members of the city commission maligning this program. And I probably shouldn't be too surprised because it's similar to the way these same commissioners introduced the city center project and the sidewalk program. We're already seeing on social media people calling the sewer line insurance program a scam and another plot by the City Hall gang and so on and so on. And I can easily see two negative results coming from this. First of all, if you manage to reduce public confidence in the program, we'll have fewer enrollees. If we have fewer enrollees, the only possible effect is a rate increase. A program like this only works when it has a lot of people in it. Second negative consequence would be you dissuade staff from making suggestions like this. If a staff person suggested this program and people line up 10 deep to criticize them, they're not going to suggest other programs that are similar. And it seems like a mindful elected official would be sensitive to these negative consequences. It's pretty obvious. I should point out, we had a similar problem back in Royal Oak about 15 years ago. We had two cranks get elected to the school board. It was Frank Tyndall and Deb Wright. And they were the same way. They constant streams of baseless accusations and wild claims with no substantiation behind them. Once they got on the board, they had no positive program, so all they could do was criticize, accuse, silly stunts like voting no on consensus items and things like that. Now, in the long run, we defeated them. You know, we got our school bond passed, we got our school operating millage passed over their opposition. We defeated them so badly they wound up dropping out of politics. And when I say we, I don't mean we as a partisan. We had a nonpartisan group of city residents, Republicans, Democrats, Independents. We had people that had no idea what they were because they'd never been involved politically before, but they saw what was going on and they got concerned. And I'm thinking we might need to do something like that, again, here in Royal Oak about the city commission. But anyways, I'd appreciate if you send another letter out about the sewer line insurance, and just so people know, this isn't something we should have to fight about. This is a good thing that everybody should just want to have, and I'm just disappointed in seeing the attacks against it. But thank you for your time.
Mr. Reagan. Mr. Walton?
Evening, Mr. Mayor, City Commissioners. I am Mark Walton. I live at 2929 Bembridge in the Woodward Side sub. My wife and I live there. I'd like to speak in support of item number 15 on your agenda, the resolution in support of the prevailing wage. I'm very pleased to see this resolution on your agenda. Our son, Jeff, works for Barton Mallow and works on a lot of state-funded projects. He's a proud member of the Laborers International Union, and like thousands of other Michigan construction workers, including, I assume, dozens if not hundreds who live in Royal Oak, he benefits from prevailing wage and the decent living standard it provides him and his family. I'd like to point out that prevailing wage not only benefits union workers, but non-union contractors bidding on state contracts also are required to pay prevailing wage to their workers. Though the law doesn't require it, I encourage the city to consider contracting with companies that pay prevailing wages to ensure that city projects are done on time, safely, and completed by skilled, qualified construction workers. I hope that this resolution will have the unanimous support of the City Commission. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Walton. Mr. Schwagel.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council members. Hello, my name is Stephen Schwagel, 607 East LaSalle, Council President representing Good Shepherd Lutheran Church, 814 North Campbell Road. First, I'd like to thank all of you for the opportunity you are giving to Good Shepherd. We have been on a roller coaster ride for almost 2 years, and our entire congregation is most appreciative that this is coming to a positive end. We heard concern here last month regarding our financial stability and what to do with the property should it not be a church. Mistakes were made by past leadership of our church. As of 18 months ago, with the change of council members, we aggressively addressed this situation. Knowing our 67-year-old church could not continue in the direction it was heading, borrowing from its own investments for maintenance. We are now pleased to announce that at our semi-annual congregational meeting last week, we presented our congregation with a balanced budget for the first time in the last few years, and under more responsible leadership, will continue in this direction. We anticipate 2018 to be a more generous year as congregational giving is up, thereby allowing Good Shepherd to give back more. We plan to use the benefits of the sign for local city and community events and pay it forward all around. I would hope that this eases the minds of the City Commission in light of the current progress we are making with diligent cutbacks, renegotiating of contracts, and reinvestment of church funds with a more prolific financial advisor. While these moves are positive, we continue to be fiscally responsible, using more advanced tools in order to increase memberships, strengthen our financial future, and let our community know what we do and how we can help others. A new modern LED messaging sign will accomplish this, the same as other churches, schools, and businesses. Additionally, residential neighbors indicate that they are in favor and support Good Shepherd's new LED sign, stating that the good this church does and the need to promote our services and opportunities to all. Our Change.org petition, as of today, has 223 signatures. However, as a church that is cutting unnecessary expenditures, we do feel the second $300 we were charged just to be reheard by the Planning Commission, then promptly denied again, was unnecessary and unfair, since we met all criteria for the city's own hardship variance and felt penalized on what was clearly an error on the Area 2 assignments by the Planning Commission. This is admitted on the amendment to the sign ordinance revised by the Department of Community Development in reference to Church of God of Prophecy being placed within sign Area 2 and causing us to challenge reasons for denial. The first $300 for the permit was of course necessary, but anything after that we feel was unfair in order to point out that Good Shepherd was left out of Area 2, yet surrounded by businesses and another small church all in Area 2. Taking an additional $300 from our church that could instead be put toward our ministries just seems very wrong. Therefore, we feel a refund of the second $300 would be a kind and responsible gesture to our church, and a reasonable request in light of all our efforts for twice satisfying the variance requirements. In the words of December's invocation by Commissioner Dubuck, I was impressed when he said, and I quote, "Let's represent the best of our city by exemplifying empathy, open-mindedness, patience, vision, inclusion, thoughtfulness, and compassion. We are committed to fostering a strong, healthy community for current and future generations," end of quote. This is our hope as well in representing Good Shepherd Lutheran Church. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Schragle. Ms. Isaacs.
Good evening, Commissioners and Mayor. Candace Isaacson, 513 Wellesley Avenue, Royal Oak, Michigan. I was unable to be here at the last commission meeting. I had just returned from Florida, and I did want to speak to you briefly. Wanted to thank the Appointment Commission for reappointing me to my position on the ROHC board. And I also wanted to speak a little bit about the non-appointment of Rick Karlowski. And please bear with me on this. He was the head of our Civil War enactment. He was also my treasurer on our board. He also was very instrumental in deciphering the Roots program and what was deposits and not deposits and the confusion in that. He was also the main guy on his own vacation time sledgehammering a porch off the Starr house, the side porch that was falling down. He did that for a solid 2 weeks. Very big shoes to fill in that position. I wanted you to be aware that I am a working board. We don't sit and meet once a month and then wait for the next meeting. We actually go to work. We dust, we clean, we garden, we weed, we paint, we do everything. And the new member that I was appointed, I reached out and contacted him, and he is rejecting the position. He can't be on it. So I'm hoping that you re-look at Rick, because I had a working member, and now I have a big hole in my board, and I'm hoping that the appointment board can get together and fill that hole one way or the other. I think we need to re-interview a process of some type for reappointment. That application was from April of last year. So things happen in the interim and nothing gets adjusted back. You don't know that teams that might be on a board. You wouldn't know, so. Other than that, the Roots program, I am very concerned about Roots. I have contacted the financial department 3 times, and all 3 times I am told that it is under training processes and et cetera, et cetera. I still do not know where I sit on my Roots account, which I should. I should have an updated one every month. I am going into looking at the kitchen, and I would like to know exactly where I'm at before I start spending some money. And I have not got an answer, other than they're training somebody new. So please, please, somebody look into that. And that is it. And I hope you have a great night. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Isaacson. See a hand in the back. Oh. Mr. Rummel?
Mr. Mayor, Commission members, my name is John Rummel. I live at 806 Catalpa here in Royal Oak. I too just wanted to say a few words in support of the sewer line program. It's something I've become experienced with, not something I wanted to become experienced with, but we signed up in the beginning, I think, when the program started, have used it, I asked my wife tonight, probably 6 times. We have 9 big oaks between our property and the 2 adjacent. It's not a big area, and there are a lot of tree roots, so it's a real problem. And they do call back. You call in, and every time you get a call within 1 hour telling you when somebody will come out to fix the problem, and it's done within 24 hours. And I was beginning to wonder after, they kind of know me when I call up, but no questions are asked. And we're pretty good now knowing when there's a problem developing and we catch it early, they come out. It really is, it's hassle-free. And, we had it done before this program started, and we were spending $130, $140. So we've saved money, and it's voluntary. Nobody has to do it. But we would be out some money if, for some reason, it was to be curtailed. So I like it. Thank you.
Mr. Rummel? Yes, up front here, in the purple shirt.
Mr. Mayor and honorable commissioners, I want to speak tonight to protest and appeal the assessment fee for the replacement of
Sir, is there a chance we can get your name and
Oh,
address
so
for the
sorry.
record? Sorry.
Yep, so sorry. Yeah, I'm Michael Carlson. I reside at 1003 Amelia Avenue in Royal Oak. And yes, I have just wanted to protest and appeal the assessment for one section of the sidewalk that was replaced in front of our property at 1003 Amelia. There are 4 reasons for my protest and appeal as follows. 1, a high unit cost. The spreadsheet for the 2017 Sidewalk Improvement Program Phase 1 billing on the City of Royal Oak website indicates that the per square foot cost for replacing 4- and 6-inch concrete is $5.03 and $5.97 respectively. According to ProMatcher's report on Royal Oak paving costs and prices, the cost for driveway non-reinforced concrete is $3 to $5 for an average cost of $4 per square foot. I submit that I and my fellow property owners should not be levied an amount of almost $2 a square foot more than the 6-inch concrete. Reason number 2, poor quality control. Several months after the sidewalk replacements, my wife and I were walking in our neighborhood, and we observed several situations of cracks, breaks, and corner failures of the new concrete sidewalks, particularly where these abutted street curbing. In addition, I noticed a narrow ridge of concrete on my driveway, several inches from the new sidewalk installed by the city contractors. To this day, the ridge is still present, and my snow shovel continues to snag on it. Number 3, poor safety practices. I was truly shocked one day to look out our front window and see one of the contractor's representatives riding in the bucket of a front-end loader as it was going down Amelia Avenue. This individual, wearing no hard hat or other protective equipment, jumped down jumped off down the street after it had barely stopped moving. I reported the incident, a clear violation of my OSHA, to the engineering department and of Royal Oak on that day it occurred, but I doubt if appropriate action was taken. I don't know. None of the contractor's employees I saw adjacent to our property were wearing hard hats, even the individual whose head was adjacent to the swinging concrete delivery tray attached to the mixer truck. Thus, I don't believe that property owners, myself included, should bear the cost either directly through the sidewalk special assessment or indirectly through property taxes of any administrative or contractor oversight for the city's sidewalk replacement program. Number 4, questionable improvement. Section 1 of Chapter 12 of the City Charter grants the Commission authority to repave and construct sidewalks or otherwise when deemed, quote, a public improvement, unquote. The City Charter contains no criteria for what constitutes a public improvement. However, I question whether the replacement of the section of sidewalk in front of my house with minor cracks constitutes a public improvement. In summary, I request the Commission to reconsider the special assessment for a sidewalk adjacent to my property and to make it null and void. And I thank you very much for your attention to this important matter.
Thank you, Mr. Cross. Yes, sir.
Evening. My name is Pat McGee, 4524 Elmhurst Avenue. Hopefully not take up too much of your time, as I've sent my letter to you guys in advance. Hopefully you guys had a chance to read it, but I do want to just say one little thing from it, so bear with me here. So I live in a corner house, and I have 41 segments of concrete that could be replaced at any given time from the city. This latest assessment, I was assessed 5 squares with an estimate of $738.95. That amount is not the concerning part. The concerning part to me is the arbitrary manner that the 5 were selected. And as I met with the city of Royal Oak engineers, their criteria was not solidly defined and not well communicated back to me, as was brought up at a previous meeting here where I granted and asked for your help and did receive it. I appreciate that. My concern is what protects the future assessments from somebody saying all 41 of my squares need to be replaced. When I went through the proper channels, I went through the proper process. I submitted the proper forms, but did not receive official feedback until after my sidewalk was replaced. And then lastly, this is in respect to item 12 of the meeting. In the agenda, it states that the 2,725 effective properties are listed. However, when you do the math and you pull out the spreadsheets and you put them in a list and then count them up, it actually comes to 2,726 individual units, as well as the grand total. It's minute difference, but it is a difference that should be documented for the record, as if you have come to get to know me, I'm a very detail-oriented person. It comes to not the $854,965.37. It actually, in fact, comes to the $854,966.44, which, when you guys get to the chance to vote on it, sum it up. If you guys don't agree with me, my math is wrong, but that's the math that I came up with. And then lastly, in conclusion, I'm requesting that only once the job at my property has been completed to 100%, meaning the saw cuts that were done into both a driveway and a front walk are replaced, that the sod, grass, or grass seed has been laid and has had time to properly mature and grow. So until that work has been completed, just like any other contracting job, until the work is done, I shouldn't be required to pay for the amount. Thank you, and good evening.
Yes, sir.
Hello, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners. My name is Kevin Sears. I'm at 4523 Elmhurst, actually across across the street from Mr. McGee there. I'm also talking about the sidewalk replacement program. I would like to note, I believe it's been poorly mishandled from the start. After my neighbor's experience with the city engineer, I forego trying to dispute my assessment of which and how many of my sidewalks. I'm also at a corner house, and initially our estimate was about $900 some, ended up being $1,600. And just in this latest communication, while I'd like to dispute the whole thing in general, I guess my opportunity for that has passed as the work has been done. However, in the last communication, it directed us to the website in which we went to look at payment plan options. And it noted that the payment plan is now closed. And calling the city engineer, he said, short of contacting the commissioners, which we did, one responded very kindly, one just responded, but no movement has happened on that yet. I mean, really, we just want the payment plan back open. Nowhere in any communications did it say a deadline of September to enroll for the program. We only think it's fair. And with any other work we'd ever taken part of, the payment plan is discussed upon invoice, not before, 6 months before we get invoiced. We realize we will have to pay for this work, but we are a single income family. We have a child and one on the way. $1,600 is a lot of money to spend on a year for something that seems pretty frivolous. I think having in the hands of a private company to decide how many, which, and how much work they do on homes is a little ridiculous. But that all being said, all we wish is to be put on a payment plan so that we can fulfill our obligation to pay for this work. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sears. Dr. Anderson, I see right there. Yes. You're sitting in a dark spot.
Is that recording? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Good evening, Mayor Fournier, City Commissioners. I'm Dr. Wallace Anderson, 404 Mount Vernon Boulevard. Because I'm a woman, Wallace is spelled with an I-S, and the Anderson is Norwegian, so it's S-E-N. I am here to speak, as I have numerous times since April, about the plan to put sidewalks in older neighborhoods where they have never been, specifically Washington, Custer, and the Sunnybrook area. If you think about ROI, sidewalks in these locations are pretty much useless compared to the loss of tree canopy involved. It is an irony that you have preserving and replacing existing trees as an item number 11 on your agenda tonight. And I call your attention to Chapter 770, Zoning, Article 4, also marked as Section 770-90 as revised, Part A, Number 8, which says, the intent is to prevent the unnecessary removal of mature trees and protect them for their economic support of property values, natural beauty, character, ecological importance, and historical significance. and preserve the natural beauty and irreplaceable natural heritage of the city's tree canopy. You know, and we all know, that replacement trees will take many years to grow to a size that will provide real shade and beauty. Now, when the commissioners came through, many of you were there in May to look at our area and talk with us, Matt Exley, the engineer, discussed with me and others how the sidewalks could be snaked around the trees, at least most of them. We looked at almost all of the trees on the block together, and Matt and I specifically talked about the trees on the Hamptons yard, which is at 324 Mount Vernon. It's on the east side of Washington. And then I happened to catch up with Matt when he was supervising replacement of slabs in midsummer, and he walked our yard with me, showing how the sidewalk could be put in to avoid killing trees. And so far, none of the trees in the easement adjoining our lot have been killed, but all 4 of the mature trees on the Hampton side are destroyed. And really, when you look at it, only one probably could not have been snaked around to be saved. Winding sidewalks around trees, as frequently as done in parks, might require homeowners to agree to a wider easement, and certainly my husband and I would be most agreeable to negotiating that rather than having the trees wantonly destroyed. It was cruel, and it feels vindictive for the city to start taking down those mature trees the week before Christmas without any warning to us. And it was really inhumane to not first talk with each homeowner who had so much to lose about how the sidewalk could be routed to save some trees. It's really not too late to save some of the mature trees on other blocks. It would be irresponsible to the environment and the neighborhood ambiance, for example, to not try to save the tree canopy on Sunnybrook from destruction, from the kind of destruction wreaked on Washington. So I implore you tonight to direct the city to have Matt or another engineer work with each homeowner before implementing any more cutting orders to determine what trees might be saved.
Thank you, Dr. Anderson. Is that Mr. Wolf in the back?
Ron Wolf, 333 North Troy Street. It occurred to me, I used to enjoy Tom Lair. He was quite a satirist. And to paraphrase him, he quoted one of his philosopher friends, it seems to me that many aspects of life, including local politics, is like a sewer. What you get out of it depends on what you put into it. Okay, now, getting back to Mr. Karlowski. You were drafted, Commissioner Peruk, to be the chairman of the appointment committee. Who drafted you?
Mr. Wolf,
Now,
let me remind you that you can't direct your comments and ask questions to individual commissioners. You have to address the body as a whole.
Well, okay, I'm sorry. All right, body, who drafted Ms. Peruk? Now, number 2, it bothers me that in the past, all appointments were made, this was, I think, even under Ellison, all appointments were voted on by the commission. So to appoint an appointment committee and have it done behind closed doors is not progressive transparency. And it seems to me this commission does everything it can do to obfuscate transparency at every opportunity. Every time I open the paper, this is why we hear trees being taken down. Why wasn't this discussed? What neighborhood would have trees taken down by the commission? Why was it decided by someone behind closed doors? I would like to propose that, first of all, this really weird thing about no longer 2 commissioners can add an item on the agenda be taken back I mean, now that it takes three, apparently, coincidentally, since two members of the opposing change team were elected by the citizens to hopefully implement some change, but yet they were obfuscated by suddenly, exactly the same day, Commissioner WROK had decided to that three people having a beer in a bar is a lot, in deciding what goes on an agenda, is a lot better than two people having a beer in a bar. Please, I am asking you now to, I'm asking for at least three commissioners tonight to place on the agenda that in the future, all appointments be reviewed by the commission in public, and stop with this closed committee stuff, because the appearances of political vendetta is so apparent and lately. On the sidewalks, was there open bidding on who does all these sidewalks downtown and in the neighborhoods? That's my big question. I would like to, I support Commissioner Levasseur when he reiterates constantly that, and asks constantly, is this an open bid? And we're being, and the people are being told, oh, it's much more expedient not to have an open bid. This drain thing, you know, the sewer cleaning. And I want to point out another short story. On the agenda tonight, quickly, you have this thing about prevailing wage. I distinctly remember the former administration, former mayor, a Mr. Torres got up before, and he happened to notice that Rory Free has a lot of Mexican help. And I don't know if they're citizens or not. Just regardless, they're human beings. They need work. They deserve to have work. I have no idea what they're being paid. But his family, who happens to be Hispanic, Mexican descent, Mexican, he's of Mexican heritage, asked the mayor, could he please find out, how could he find out if some of his family can find work in Royal Oak? And because they have a lot of landscaping experience. Do you remember that, Mayor? Or I mean, I'm sorry, I'm not supposed to address any individual members, but I know many of you were here. No one got a hold of Mr. Torres later and said, let me see if I can help you. You know? Why do you purport to be so...
Mr. Wolf, I'm going to need you to finish real quick.
Okay, I'm running over. I wanted to bring up Franklin, the city of Franklin, but I'll wait it up to the next meeting. City of Franklin has no sidewalks in the neighborhood, and they have multi-million-dollar homes. And 14 miles is not even paved, and they have beautiful canopies.
Thank you, Mr. Wolf.
Okay?
Thank you. Okay. Just a quick clarification for those watching. All of the appointment committee meetings are posted, and they're open to the public, and we do have people attend them. And those results do come back here to this commission table to review. We've debated on appointments all this year and since this new term took over, so they are public, just for clarification if there's some confusion out
We
there.
had 2 members of the public at our meeting.
Yep. So they are very public.
Meeting before, too.
Yes, sir.
Tim Luke, 305 Mount Vernon. I'm here to protest the assessment on my sidewalks. I sent my letter in and got my 4x5 postcard, so thank you for inviting me to talk tonight. So I'd like to go on the record as to protest that assessment. First of all, just to use, and I think it got referred to before, that somebody just came along and made an arbitrary decision. There was no definite ruling as to what was right, what was wrong. Having worked, I'm sorry, can you hear me okay? Okay. We asked if some of those sidewalks could have been sawed or a cut to the edge, and told no, only to have gone into another neighborhood where that action was taken, because it was probably more profitable to replace the sidewalk. So whether you chose to do the right thing or not, you relied on people to make a decision on our behalf and spend my money, not your money, my money. Okay? And to refer to Mr. Reagan's comments about the new commissioners, we are in your support. You're here for a reason, okay? We won't let people like that take away from us what we've gotten. So I thank you for your time. Have a good night.
Thank you, Mr. Luke. All right. Anybody else tonight for public comment? Oh, I see a hand in the back.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of the commission. My name is Jane Kosis. My address is 3909 North Blair. I live right across from Exchange Park. First of all, I'd like to acknowledge Dr. Anderson's comments and underline and emphasize everything she said. Please don't destroy the trees. We're called Royal Oak. That's our city. Please don't destroy our trees. I have another quick comment that's unrelated to that. Well, it's kind of related. When you put in the new sidewalks, specifically, I think the park is Realtor Park. And when we had the heavy snow, I don't know who did the plowing, but apparently their plow was too big for the sidewalk. And when they plowed, they ripped up and destroyed a lot of the grass, the new growth that you put down when you put the new sidewalks in. So now if you drive down a couple of those streets, you see the beautiful new white sidewalk, and alongside huge mounds of dirt and crud that the plow destroyed when it went down to plow the snow. Who's going to pay for that? My tax money? You spent this money, put these beautiful sidewalks in, and now the plow comes and destroys all the growth around the new sidewalk. Come on. I don't know who did that. I don't know who the contractor is, but he shouldn't have been paid. Should have made him go back and fix that, not our money. Just a comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kosis. Anybody else that wishes to speak tonight at public comment? Yes, sir.
Hello, my name is Travis Moore, 613 Detroit Avenue, and I was unable to attend your last regular meeting, but that was indeed the evening that you reviewed the Appointments Committee recommendations, and I just wanted to thank the Appointments Committee and all of you for all of your work on doing that. I was appointed to the Animal Shelter Committee, something I've been trying to do for a year or so now, so very excited about that, and I'm looking forward to being on that committee, and I'd like to thank you all again. Have a good evening.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. Thank you for offering and lending your time to the community. All right, anybody else? Going once? Yes, the man with the beard, the sport coat. Striped shirt, no tie.
Which color?
Intelligent glasses. Oh, Mr. Colo.
Oh, yeah. Yes. Mr. Mayor, without a beard, members of the commission, Brandon Colo, 600 East Hudson Avenue. I'm here tonight to support the prevailing wage motion that you have, resolution before you. Don't know if you know this, but the prevailing wage helps train almost $50 million in training for unions each year. Unions spend a lot of time training their employees to make sure that we have less job site accidents and the best job done possible. This isn't possible without prevailing wage. Prevailing wage also, like I said, makes a safer workplace, and it is feasible for employers to use a prevailing wage. I personally have done many prevailing wage jobs in the state of Michigan. My company had no problem making money while giving our employees the higher pay. That higher pay goes directly back into the economy. It helps local, entire regions stimulate with more money in the pockets for employees to spend. So once again tonight, I'm just really excited that you're considering this resolution, and I encourage you to pass it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Colo. Anybody else that wishes to speak tonight? Going once, going twice. Okay, we're going to bring the meeting back up here. Close out public comment and brings us to item number 6, the approval of the agenda. As mayor, I have one request. I had a communication faux pas or mistake, confusion with Ms. Hallis. It wasn't her fault, it was my fault. And I thought I communicated to her some of my appointments, specifically for the library board reappointments. And so with the, I'm hoping the commission will add this to the agenda today to talk about the mayoral appointments as item number 16. So if a motion included that, that would be helpful both to the library board and to myself. Commissioner Dubuc.
I'll move for approval of the agenda with the addition of item 16, including the discussion of the mayor's appointments.
Motion by Commissioner Dubuc. Is there support? Supported by Commissioner Macy. Discussion?
Yes.
Commissioner Perush.
Just to ask, this is the memo that we have in front of us?
Yes, this is the memo in front of you. Yep.
Okay, so there's appointments to library board, bicycle pedestrian task force, and the plan commission, Brownfield.
That's correct.
Okay, all right, thanks, that's it.
Any further discussion? All right, with none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The motion passes. We have an agenda. Okay, this brings us to the consent agenda. Commissioner Macy.
I'd like to move for removal of item D from the consent agenda.
Don't we have to make a motion to approve the consent
Nope.
agenda, then remove it?
We just did the other agenda backwards, but.
All right, we'll discuss item number D separately. Is there anybody else that wants to pull anything off the consent agenda for this evening? Okay, so the consent agenda will now include City Commission meeting minutes, December 18th, 2017, claims January 16th, 2018, approval of purchase orders, approval of Water Relief Assistance Program, WRAP, Memorandum of Agreement, and finally, confirmation of Downtown Development Authority's resolution to join Oakland County Main Street Program and the National Main Street Center. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as stated? Moved by Commissioner Douglas, supported by Commissioner Macy. Any discussion? Commissioner Macy?
I'd just like to say that I wasn't aware of the WRAP program before seeing it on the consent agenda, so I just want to quickly state that it's a program that allows for relief from the water bill for eligible residents that we have in conjunction with, I can't remember the name of the organization. But if you don't have to be behind on your water bill, but you can apply for relief if you're, I think, at 150% of the poverty level. So I think that's a great thing. I'm glad we're renewing it.
Thank you. Any other discussions? Okay, with that, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? The motion passes. This brings us to former item D of the consent agenda, which is approval of proposed settlement, Mary Rowe versus Richard Snyder et al. Commissioner Macy.
I actually just want to abstain from this because this is the one that involves University of Michigan Law School, which is also my employer. So.
I'll refrain from making a comment about the University of Michigan being here.
Go blue.
We're getting outnumbered here with U of M fans
Got the right
lately.
corner.
Okay, so Commissioner Macy's going to abstain. Is there any additional comment or discussion on this agenda? Any questions? Okay, so if there are none, I'll entertain a motion. Commissioner Perush?
I will so move this resolution, excuse me.
Supported by Commissioner Dubuc. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Abstentions? Commissioner Macy, for the record, abstained. Okay. That brings us to item number 8, Sewer and Water Line Warranty Program. I sense Mr. Rassel, and my senses are refined.
Good evening, Mayor. Commissioners, a couple meetings ago, the commission asked for an update on the sewer line warranty program. So instead of me restating everything that's in the commission letter, representatives from the insurance company, Samantha Willis and Mike Chordetsky, okay, I came pretty close, have a brief presentation that'll probably summarize most of what's in your letter and have a package for you that'll explain the whole program. And they should be able to do it briefly, so I'll turn it over to Mike and Samantha.
Commissioners.
Mr. Mayor?
You should all have a window already open on your computer to view the presentation in.
Oh, you know what, I closed.
If you closed it, click on,
I'll watch. I can see it in front.
okay, perfect.
I'm good.
Again, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and members of the commission. We appreciate the opportunity to come and speak with you. My name is Michael Twardowski. I'm Vice President of Account Management with Service Line Warranties of America. And this is Samantha Willis, who works with me on the account. So we wanted to take today, and we will go over a presentation for you to give you an update of where we are with the program since it was launched in February of 2014. There's been a lot of success with the program, and we wanted to give an update on the product for those of you who are new to the commission, as well as talk about the success of the program and answer any questions you might have. Sorry, she left me. There it is. So we are in partnership with the National League of Cities, and it is an endorsed program for the National League of Cities. So we were selected among all of the providers to be endorsed because of our service record and because of our level of service that we provide to the residents of the different communities. So we partner with over 350 partners across 34 states, and that's actually growing. That number is probably a little outdated. We're actually closer to over 400 partners today. But there's 14 other partners outside of Royal Oaks in the Michigan area, so 15 with Royal Oaks. So the program has been growing. There's more and more residents are taking advantage of the program as we grow. So the next slide will show you what the external sewer line warranty looks like. So this is the most popular warranty that we offer in this region in Royal Oaks. And you can see it's an $8,500 coverage product. And customers really need to just call us and we'll deploy a local contractor. So we partner with contractors in the area and develop a network. So while we might be based outside of the city limits, we use local residents to add to the economy, to provide work, and a lot of this work doesn't get done otherwise without having coverage for the residents to be able to have affordable coverage to cover these sometimes very expensive repairs. You'll also see the water line product. The water line product, which covers the line that's on the customer's property, and I should say the same thing for the sewer line. Both of these cover from the main and from the utility or from the city's responsibility to the boundary of the house. So this is a line that customers are responsible for repairing, and these products provide a very cost-effective way to protect yourself against problems that could happen with this line, a failure that could happen with this line, whether it be tree roots causing a backup in the line, or whether it be just a regular backup, whether it be the materials really reaching their lifespan and corroding and failing. The next product that you'll see in the presentation is not a product that's currently offered with Royal Oaks. This is our interior plumbing product inside the home. This was put in just to give a sense of the breadth of product that we offer to residents. But this product is not currently offered with Royal Oaks, but this covers the line inside the home. So the next slide shows a program update. So to date, since launching, as I mentioned, in February of 2014, we have over 4,000 customers in the Royal Oaks area who are enrolled in the product, and they're enrolled in 5,429 policies. So that means that there are a number of customers who have taken more than one policy, both the water and the sewer line coverage. And you can see the number of claims. The number of claims is very impressive for the sewer line product. 1,100, over 1,100 claims, and over $600,000 that was saved for customers, and that's the amount of work that was done in your area for the sewer line product. That comes out to an average around $550 per claim, and 12 sewer line or water line, excuse me, claims were performed, and a little over $12,000 in savings to your residents. And I should note there that the waterline product, while it happens less often, you can see it's double the price. It's around $1,000 on average. And a lot of the time, that line needs to be repaired or replaced for the customer. We've also added some other components because customer service is really at the core of what we do. It allows us to be here, it allows us to partner with Royal Oaks. So welcome calls, we do call the customer following their enrollment in the program to make sure they've gotten all their materials and make sure that they understand what they enrolled in, what the coverages entail, and really how to make a claim where they need that help. And then cross-sells in the campaign. So what we also offer to customers is really a rotation of products so that if they have the sewer line product, that we make that water line product available to them, or vice versa. So that's really what we're referring to when we talk about cross-sells. So really, we split those mailing lists whenever we go out to make sure that we're offering the product that a customer does not have that is within the program. Current results from the survey. So we do survey customers. And really what's impressive about this is over 80% of customers that were surveyed really report that this has a positive influence on their view of the city. And really a lot of that comes through the satisfaction level that we maintain. So we have a 98% satisfaction level for all of our repairs. And that's due in large part to having very high quality contractors in the area, as well as a 92% excellent, very good, or good rating. So that's really that disparity. So you see 92%, but 98% were satisfied with the program. You know, and really that's out of 196 surveys. So we reach out to customers. Now, if they don't want to provide feedback, we don't get all of them, but we get a good number of them. We have a number of customer testimonials. We listed a few here. You can see that, you know, we get a lot of positive feedback about the program. However, there are some customers where if they call us and they have an issue, you know, this team here is focused on it along with our customer service, our escalated customer service team that helps resolve any issues. The marketing process. So the marketing process, when we put a letter out into the marketplace, that is totally vetted by Royal Oaks. So we submit that letter for approval, and we welcome feedback on that letter and would make adjustments to it. We are constantly looking to make sure that that letter is clear, that customers understand that it is an optional program, and that you know, it's there in case they need to protect themselves. So we give a sense on that letter of, you know, the sort of things that could go wrong, how much those things typically cost, and really try to make enrollment as easy as possible. So the enrollment process. So customers can choose any of our products. We give a number of different ways to enroll in the product. They can call into our call center, which is located in Chattanooga, Tennessee, or they can send the mailer back, or they can go online to a website and enroll. So we provide all of those options to customers to enroll. And if they have a claim, really all they need to do is call that 1-800 number. And I think it had been referenced earlier, but really within an hour, a contractor will call to schedule a repair. If it's an emergency, our internal requirement is that within 3 hours that they're on site to address any emergency. But if it's a non-emergency, they call within an hour and set up an appointment at the customer's convenience. And that's our presentation, and that's our overview. So we're happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions for Ms. Willis or Mr. Twardowski? Mr. Douglas.
Who are your competitors in this business?
Our competitors would be most likely American Water. who has their own program, and they do mail throughout the U.S. And then the other closest competitor to us would be American Home Shield, but they provide a slightly different product where they do a whole home type product, which we could also offer, but we have found much more success in offering an a la carte type of product.
And so why did the National League of Cities pick you over American Water?
American Water was part of that process, and we see American Water, for example, a lot of times when we come in and an RFP is issued by the city, and we were selected by the National League of Cities, the same reason we were selected by a lot of cities, is really our service is better. And we have higher levels of service, higher levels of satisfaction. So we, in most cases, win out in those scenarios.
Thank you.
How do you select your local contractors?
We have an area network team that's responsible for different areas of the country. So they'll come out and recruit different contractors. Now, there's certain standards that those contractors need to meet. So we put out and we use city as well to recommend, or if recommendation is not appropriate, to put us in contact. Otherwise, we will go to the local yellow pages and we'll find contractors and we'll go to them and make sure that they have the proper insurance. We do drug testing of all the contractors, as well as make sure that they'll meet our standards of being as responsive as I mentioned. So they need to be available 24/7. So they'll go door to door and meet with those contractors. We'll get them to commit to those certain standard levels, and then they'll be part of the network. So when you call into that 800 number, they'll be on that list that could be deployed out to the customer.
Commissioner Lavasser.
Just to be clear, my understanding is if someone needs a dig out, completely replace the line, sewer line, that's covered by this coverage here?
Yes.
And if they have water in the basement, but they just need a snaking of the drain, that's also covered?
Yes.
All right, but my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, if it's simply a preventative maintenance, no actual clog, but let's get the roots out so we don't have a problem, that would not be covered, if I understand correctly? That's
correct.
All right. How do customers pay you? Is it monthly? Is it annually? Is there a renewable credit card situation? How's that done?
Yes, so all of the above. So we give the option to customers to either pay by credit card, in which case it is renewable, or provide a one-time check.
Okay.
So if they provide that check to us, it's for the annual price, and then we'll send them a renewal notice the next year and look to get another check. Otherwise, we'll send a notice letting them know that we're going to bill that credit card again and to call us if they don't want us to.
Okay. Now, with regard to the claims, with regard to the sewer lines, I did not see it broken down between snaking of drains and the actual dig up and replacement. Do you have that information?
We have that information. I don't have it available to me now, but that's something we could provide to you.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Perush.
In terms of the water line policy, which we have now, we didn't have it when we potentially needed it. When a new water line was put in front of our home for the city, the big water line, not the individual homeowner one, when it came time to connect our house back up, they discovered that our individual house line was made of lead and recommended that we replace it, which we did immediately. It hadn't been unsafe because of the condition of it, but it was time to replace it, certainly. There are probably other old houses in the city that also have lead service lines. If we had had a policy at that time, would it have covered that?
It would have.
It would have. Okay.
Well, now, if there was an issue with the line, so typically we're not going to go and dig up the line proactively, but if there is an issue with the line and we're digging, we come across lead, we replace that line.
Okay.
So we bring it up to code. Otherwise, we wouldn't necessarily know,
Right.
that was lead or have dug up that line at that point.
Right. Well, the city was digging up the big line, and then they were digging up our yard to replace our service line, and then discovered, oh my gosh, it's lead. Look, we can bend it.
Right.
So, but it would have covered?
It wouldn't have covered if there was no issue with the line.
Okay.
So if there was an issue with that line, it would have covered a full replacement of the line. If it was in proper working order, we do have a program where customers can call us and we will recommend a contractor and, provide our rates to
Okay.
do that.
Okay.
But the proactive, without a failure of the line, the
Okay.
proactive replacement of that line is not contemplated in the product.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Commissioner Lasser?
Yeah, I'm sorry, just a couple of follow-up questions. Is your service available to residents of cities that don't participate in the marketing program?
Currently, no. Currently, no.
Right.
All of our marketing is done through partnerships. Really, that, Service Line Warranties of America is not typically a known entity in most areas. So having that trust, having that oversight of the city provides the response, provides the customer participation that allows us to, send out costly mailers.
Okay. And my understanding is that cities that participate in this receive a royalty for cooperating with the marketing here. And my understanding was slightly over $27,000 last year for Royal Oak.
That's correct.
Do some cities forego collection of those royalties? And if so, is there a reduction in premium cost to the customers?
Yes, on both counts. So there are cities that forego the royalty, and that's very easily done. And there is a reduction in premiums. So there is a set rate if we provide premiums, then there's a set rate if we don't.
Do they equal dollar for dollar? Is it? So that $27,000, if we forego that, would our residents receive that dollar per dollar discount, or is there a different?
I would have to think about the math on that, because the way that would work is the price would come down, but the participation really drives what that dollar amount is. So if that participation is different, the dollar for dollar may not align. But if the participation is the same, then it would.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Any additional questions for Mr. Rassel?
I do, if I may.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Rassel, the $27,000 we receive, does that go to any particular fund?
Currently, it goes to the Water Sewer Fund, but I have been told, well, in discussions with the representatives, they indicated a lot of communities do use that money for other things, such as helping people with their water bills, dedicated to other city improvements, whether they be water, parks, that kind of thing as well. So people do other things with the money, rather than just put it back into the Water Sewer Fund.
And on that thought, Mr. Rassel, I know I burdened you before in the past. You guys do field questions, and there are administrative costs for you as well to have the program in place. Am I incorrect in that thought? Maybe, I don't know if it's $27,000, but certainly you have.
We do field calls, and like I said, there have been, I think, maybe 3 incidents in 4 years where I've had to deal with someone's service on a claim, but it was always corrected after I got involved, and we got them hooked up with the correct people at the insurance company.
Questions further for Mr. Rassel? Okay, well, there's no action necessary on this report. I appreciate Mr. Rassel, and of course, the folks representing the Sewer Line Insurance Company for coming out and explaining to us in a little bit more detail about the product, how it works, how it's administered, the benefits, and how the whole process is shaken out. No additional comments or discussion? All right, we'll move on to item number 9, signed ordinance amendments, first reading. Mr. Twing.
Mayor, members of the commission, at your December 22nd meeting, you directed staff to prepare an amendment to the sign ordinance that would address opportunities or options related to the property at 814 North Campbell, and potentially their ability to install an electronic message center at that location. Just as a reminder, as we indicated in the report, the sign ordinance basically has 3 sign areas with the remainder of the city that's not in a specific sign area permitted to have signs that are termed permitted in all locations. The church at this location falls into that non-designated sign area, so it's allowed to have signs that are listed under churches, institutionals, and other things. And as was indicated at that time, they did approach the Planning Commission, which serves as the Sign Board of Appeals, requesting variances to various parts of the sign, including the ability to install an electronic message center. Having looked at it, there's 2 options that staff put together for your consideration. They're both in the report, depending on which way you wanted to go. The first option would be simply to amend the sign ordinance for those institutional uses outside designated sign areas to allow electronic message centers. The recommended text would allow the message center to be incorporated as part of the monument sign that's permitted under those provisions. We are recommending that that's the option that you follow, rather than designating this church or other church properties into sign area 2, as that sign area is intended for commercial uses, non-institutional uses. We did include a copy of the sign area 2 provisions, as well as the provisions related to permitted signs in all locations. And what you'll see is there's a distinct difference between what's allowed in terms of height and sign area, as well as potentially number of signs. In the monument style sign, by example, the monument in permitted in all locations, you can have a monument style sign that's 5 feet in height with a maximum area of 25 square feet on one side. And then there's some other provisions. If sign area 2 were the designation, given the size of the property in question, it's got more than 300 feet of frontage on a street, single street. They would either be allowed to have 2 freestanding signs of 16 feet in height or 42 square feet in sign area, as well as the electronic message centers. Or they could choose to install 1 sign that's 24 feet in height and 84 square feet in terms of sign area. So we think that's out of character with 1, what they're requesting, and 2, what churches throughout the and institutions throughout the city should potentially be designated as. So we are recommending option 1 in terms of adding, referencing back that the monument style signs that are currently allowed in all locations for institutional uses be allowed to have electronic message centers following the similar provisions that are in the contained in sign area 2. Basically, it limits the size of the electronic message center to 50% of the allowable sign. So it would be half of the total all square footage. And then it gets into that the cycle of the signs, electronic message centers, can only change every 30 seconds. It has some requirements for that automatically dimming. So what we're recommending is having wording that allows electronic message centers as part of the institution, and then referring it back to the same provisions that are applied under sign area 2. The other change that we're recommending under either option is there's a paragraph that says the electronic message center, D2, that a single continuous electronic message may be permitted on each sign face, and that the electronic message center may occupy all of the actual copy and graphic area of the sign. We're suggesting that the word sign be removed and electronic message center be installed, so that it's clear that the intent is the electronic message center is half of the overall sign area. Again, we thought it had some conflict with the other area. The last part of that option 1 would be is if you concurred with going that direction. There is another property that's been referenced previously on Campbell Road, 600 North Campbell. It's currently in sign area 2. I can find no reason why it was in sign area 2. It's a single property that's not connected to others other than our maps are tied to the county land system, and we have found on occasion that it gets a mind of its own. And when we designate something by parcel, it may throw it somewhere else. There may be another reason when it was amended why it's in, but irregardless, we're recommending that that 600 North Campbell be removed from sign area 2, and then it would still fall under the other provisions for institution and could be treated the same. So that's option 1. Option 2, because this was really, I think some of the discussion would be to simply add 814 to sign area 2, and we would simply amend the sign map, and then again, I would recommend changing sections D2 to remove the word sign and insert electronic message center. So those are basically the 2 options that we're suggesting that you could consider this evening in terms of addressing electronic message centers at institutions or churches, and in particular, the Good Shepherd Church at 814 North Campbell.
Thank you, Mr. Twing. Very thorough. We have questions for Mr. Twing. Commissioner Perush.
I have 2 questions. Either option 1 or option 2 would take 2 readings, correctly? So one is not necessarily faster than the other. We would have to approve either 1 or 2 on 2 readings, 1 tonight and 1 at the next meeting?
Yeah, both are ordinance amendments. Both will take 2 readings.
Okay.
Either option doesn't change that.
Okay. Then the second question is when Good Shepherd originally applied, if this had been done at that time, their application would have fit within the parameters of option 1, correct?
Yes, if the wording was already in place that is in option 1, then yes, their sign for the electronic message center would comply. They still would have needed a variance for the height of the sign as well as the setback of the sign.
Right, but in terms of the electronic message
It's
element
half the sign.
itself, their application would have fit in with the parameters of this amendment for option 1.
That's correct. It's half the sign area, so that's really the...
Okay, all right, thanks. Those are my only 2 questions.
Commissioner Gibbs.
I have a question. Who or what department monitors the 30-second rule for the messages?
It's generally done through code enforcement, and it's
Okay.
generally done on complaint basis, or if they're driving down the road and see a sign that's scrolling or flashing.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Mr. Johnson, you had something to add?
I just wanted to elaborate. I'm sure the commissioner's already aware. It's 2 readings plus 10 days.
Yes, yes.
So if this got approved tonight and at the next meeting, which is the 12th, it would be the 22nd, if I'm counting right.
Yes.
So it would be in effect.
Okay, thanks.
Commissioner Macy.
So I apologize for this question. I'm sure I should know the answer, but what other institutions does this open the doors for, option 1?
Option 1 would open the door for any institution or church that complies with the section in sign area 2. It would require that probably the one that would be the most limiting that'd have to be on a major street. So an institution or a church that's not on a major street, might be just on a local street, would not be entitled to an electronic message center. But it would open the door to all the other ones that can comply with that section.
So the other institution that aren't churches, any business along a major street that isn't currently in sign area 2 would suddenly be able to put up a sign like this?
It would not apply to a business.
Okay.
it would apply to the institution and what's defined as a church. So it would apply to the one to the south at 600 North Main as well, but it would apply to all of them equally.
Commissioner Lavasser?
Just to clarify, my understanding from what you commented on a moment ago is that the specific sign that Good Shepherd proposed to the Planning Commission, that particular sign would not necessarily have been allowed simply through the adoption of option one without further action either through zoning or through planning?
That's correct. If you look at attachment 2, it would still have needed the variance because the monument-style sign has to be set back 10 feet from the property line. It's not. And I'm not sure I'm hitting all the right variances, but I believe it was also too tall. It was more than 5 feet in height. And we're not changing those provisions.
Okay.
The only provision we're addressing is the electronic message sign.
Okay, and that was specifically zoning or planning that they would need to go to for that?
The Planning Commission serves as the sign board of appeals. They granted 2 of the variants and did not grant the electronic message.
Okay, so those first 2 issues are resolved, it's just the electronic message matter that's out there?
Well, I think if you pass this, I would ask Mr. Gillum for clarity tomorrow on whether or not the Planning Commission would have to see it again because they granted a variance based on a certain action and sign in front of them. And if the Planning Commission was a denial on the electronic message center, they may not grant the height and setback if it's now allowed. All we're dealing with tonight is the ordinance change. But I'd ask for Mr. Gillum's clarity tomorrow on whether it needs to go back for sure or not.
And just to follow up, and this may be slightly off topic, but we've heard it in public comments a couple times, the concern over, being billed twice to apply to the Planning Commission. And I would just like to better understand when do we charge and under what circumstances do we charge and under what circumstances do we consider petitions to be separate petitions that we may be charging?
Well, the application fees and dollar amounts are set by the commission, yourselves. And the appeal for the sign ordinance is $300, and it's based on a summary of how long it normally takes staff to process the request. So the fee is based on a staff issue, not as well as providing notice and doing some other things for it. So those fees are set by the commission. We charge after an action's been taken and there's a new action required, we charge the fee again because it's reprocessed and redone. In this case, the Planning Commission took an action.
Was the second request a reconsideration or a brand-new petition? And depending upon the designation, would that have impacted whether or not the additional $300 would have been charged?
No, it's still a new application that staff spends time on reprocessing, and frankly, we spend more time on dealing with reconsiderations and more communications than we do with the first request. So we generally would spend more time on it and not less, because we've taken it back to the Planning Commission under the idea of a reconsideration, and there's no fee charged for that, and then it's redealt with again at the time the Planning Commission sees it the second time.
Any other questions? Commissioner Macy?
So I was wondering about this, and maybe I'm wrong, but I thought that we heard from the first time that they came to speak that the first application, they didn't show hardship because they didn't realize they had to do that, which was why it failed the first time and then they reapplied. Is that true or not true?
No, I mean, I don't know what their impression was. You'd have to ask them what their impression was. So I can't speak for it. In order for the Planning Commission to grant an appeal, you have to show that there's some uniqueness to your property that's not true of all the others. That's partly why we're suggesting that if you're going to grant consideration for this church, you should just open the door for all the others, because I don't believe they have a different argument than anyone else. If that's the route you want to go, then I would rather have staff amend the ordinance so we're not dealing with appeals of similar requests. Having said that, though, the burden of proving an appeal is on the petitioner. I can't speak for the Planning Commission in totality of what their thoughts were and reasons for not granting electronic message centers, other than going back to when we amended the sign ordinance a few years ago. Even this body had mixed feelings about whether you were going to even allow electronic message centers in the sign ordinance. There was a lot of discussion about prohibiting them everywhere. So I think the idea of electronic message centers is, in some commissioners' minds, should go away, and they shouldn't be granted, or they shouldn't be allowed anywhere in town. And in others, it may be appropriate. So the hardship is, like I say, there's criteria there that they need to meet and prove to the Planning Commission. I'm going to say that it wasn't proved the first time. Went back to the Planning Commission and asked for an opportunity to be reheard. The Planning Commission voted to let them be reheard. Again, because the decision had been made. If the Planning Commission had said, no, we're not going to rehear it, it had been done at that point. But the Planning Commission said they would rehear it. And so when it came back in to be reheard, we had to process it in the same fashion as before, so we charged the same fee.
Any other questions? Okay, well, we have a couple proposed resolutions in front of us. Obviously, staff is recommending proposal number 1, which I believe addresses, at least from the petitioner's cause that sort of stimulated this conversation, addresses, their needs. But, at a higher level, I think, as we work towards equity among all institutions in the community and, looking and treating them the same and fairly, I think option 1 gives us the best mode to achieve what we're trying to achieve. Furthermore, it avoids some of the hazards and risks associated with simply identifying an area as sign area 2, as Mr. Twing provided with the dimensions and sizes. And, although Good Shepherd Lutheran Church has done an amazing job on the rebound, there's always that risk for them or any other institution in the city to, sell their land to a private developer, and then we have the sign pollution that we're, looking to avoid. So with the institutional aspects, they are limited to a more, domiciled, or can't find the right word, but a sign that fits more appropriately in the area. So 2 options.
I'm sorry, Mayor, I have one.
Commissioner
If I
Douglas.
may, one question. So the definition of institutions mentions churches, schools, daycare. It also mentions healthcare. What is that, when it defines healthcare as an institution, what kinds of buildings or establishments are we talking about?
Trying to think of one that's outside of a sign area. Could be some sort of common ground, a mental health facility that are allowed in residential zones.
So all doctor's offices, for example, are only in sign areas?
Right.
Okay.
Well, unless it's a non-conforming use. I mean, you may have a party store in the middle of a neighborhood that was there prior to the ordinance taking effect. But in terms of permitted uses, most of the non-designated areas are zoned 1 or 2 family.
Okay.
So you're you're going to be in areas where there are no commercial activities that are there legally.
Right.
Probably some therapy things that would be allowed by state law that are exempt from local zoning would be an institution that could be allowed.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Prush.
I'll move approval of the resolution for option number 1.
We have a motion by Commissioner Prush. Is there support? Supported by Commissioner, or a second? Seconded by Commissioner Dubak. Commissioner Prush.
Well, this solves the problem certainly for Good Shepherd, but it also, I think, has a degree of equity that's a lot better than option number 2, because it opens the door for this type of sign for all churches in the community that don't have them, that may want them, and other institutions, which I think is a really, really narrow other defined category. So if we were going to go with option 2, I have a feeling that we would have other churches and other institutions coming before us asking for the same kind of relief, which in terms of equity, we couldn't deny because we would have granted it to Good Shepherd. So this kind of covers the waterfront, so to speak, in terms of those types of uses. And I think it solves a greater problem that I think we were going to be facing, because I don't think that this would be the first church that would be on our door asking for this type of thing, because of the prevalence of them out there that are grandfathered in already. So anyway, I support option number 1.
Commissioner Dubak.
Anyway, yeah, I just want to thank staff for bringing this back in such a thoughtful manner. When we had discussed this 2 meetings ago, we were discussing taking action at the time, and basically wanted to kick it back to you to bring us some options that fit within the context and the spirit of the ordinance that we had landed on, so that we're not creating all kinds of unintended consequences. And I think option 1 has done exactly that. So thanks for that. And this has never been about a church, but about maintaining thoughtful, strategic control over digital signs in our city, because no one wants a 299 liquor sign outside their living room window. So, I apologize, this might have been a little bit tedious, but I think we've gotten to a place that is going to work for all of us. Commissioner Douglas.
I serve on the Planning Commission and therefore on the sign board as well. And as members of the sign board, we are governed by very strict rules, and we need to apply standards to everyone who comes before us equally. And the sign ordinance doesn't have an exemption for the good works of a church or of any other institution. And as worthy as their work may be, that's not something that the law, the ordinance, lets us take into consideration. This change solves that problem. And as I look at a list of churches in Royal Oak, a number of them already have digital signs or are in sign districts already, which are already regulated. I don't think this is going to result in a proliferation of digital signs. And I'm just going to say, I don't like digital signs, but I don't think this is an overwhelming occurrence that's going to prove to be a blight on our city. So I'll support the motion.
Any other discussion? Commissioner Macy.
I'm just going to say that I live a baseball throw or maybe a relay baseball throw away from the church, so I drive by it all the time. I'm looking forward to seeing the sign. If you could put some jokes on it occasionally, my kids would appreciate that.
Anybody else? Okay, all right. Well, I guess, I kicked off the comments. I don't have anything more to say. I wish Good Shepherd Lutheran Church and all the institutions in Royal Oak the best of luck in planning with this ordinance change. So with that, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Unanimous vote. The motion is approved. All right, that brings us to item number 10 on this evening's agenda, approval of Second Amendment to Conditional Zoning Agreement for 3425 Starr Road.
You do have a request for a second amendment to the conditional rezoning. The original conditional rezoning was approved from one-family residential to office service back in 2013 by the City Commission. Allowed the former DTE Energy Service Facility to convert to primarily medical office. That same year, there was a second amendment, or a first amendment to it, excuse me, regarding some site plan approvals. What I would point out for the commission's benefit is that a conditional rezoning has a requirement for a development agreement to come along with it, and a specific site plan, because what you're basically doing is allowing the petitioner developer to build exactly in what's proposed on the plan and not anything outside of that. So when there are amendments to it or changes to it that are outside the original approval, we are required to bring it back for your changes to the plan. The Planning Commission did approve the site plan that's associated with this request. This request is related to the petitioner being allowed to put a mobile MRI service within one of the vacant medical spaces. In order to drive that mobile vehicle in and out, they had to install an overhead door, make some other changes for the driveway and the site plan. It still complies with all the basic parking requirements and other requirements, but it did change the site plan and the use of the space. So that's the reason for the request for the Second Amendment, and that's what the Second Amendment addresses. And again, the Planning Commission did also approve the site plan. I believe the petitioners are here if you have questions of them as well.
First, do we have any questions for Mr. Twain? Commissioner Macy?
Actually, I don't know who this is a question for, but I saw on the little picture that it mostly said existing trees remain, existing trees remain. Are there any trees being taken out?
I believe there was a man door that may have been removed, but I think the petitioner could address it in more detail, but they're putting in an overhead door.
Any other questions for Mr. Twain? Petitioners wish to speak tonight?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Dennis Cowan, Plunket Cooney, representing Starwood Building, LLC, and a representative of the company, David McKay, who was also with us at the Planning Commission meeting. First, on behalf of the company, we want to thank the commission for the confidence in changing the rezoning. This was a kind of a different property. It had been the DTE facility. We hated to lose it because we got our power lines fixed first generally because they were so close. They didn't have to travel that far when there were storms or problems. But when DTE vacated, this was a unique opportunity to change to medical office. It's very close, you know, it's within the footprint of Memorial Park, so it's a special property. With this mobile MRI coming on board, this will be 95% leased, the property. It's taken a little bit of while, it's taken about 5 years to bring it up to the standards that are needed, but we've got DaVita Dialysis, which is a national company, Michigan Kidney Consultants, and now Complete Imaging with the mobile MRI machine. So if there's any, this won't change any parking requirements. It's just that, as Mr. Thwing has aptly pointed out, there was a specific site plan. You know, when you're looking 5 years down the road, it's hard to know exactly what you're going to have. Now we know exactly what we're going to have, so that's been presented to the Planning Commission and now here to the City Commission.
Any questions for the petitioner? Okay. With none, thank you very much, gentlemen. We'll call you back up if we have any further questions. Commissioner Perush.
I'll move approval of the resolution.
Motion by Commissioner Perush. Is there support? Supported by Commissioner Macy. Discussion. Commissioner Perush.
I think it's fine. I have no objection to it. I can understand the need to come back because the conditional rezoning and the site plan was very, very specific. And when it's that specific and you have to make a change, you have to go back and get another approval. But there's absolutely nothing wrong with this change.
Anybody else? Commissioner Douglas?
Yeah, it just, healthcare is changing all the time, and MRI services are one of those things. And this actually serves the community because it brings a mobile MRI unit into this property that can come in, garage doors go down, you don't even know it's there, but then it can move on to other locations to serve other facilities. I mean, I think this is how you respond to changes in the modern healthcare process.
Okay, any other discussion? All right, I agree. Small change, got to do it. Thank you for being compliant and not just coming out with a saw and opening up the door. It's always good to see people follow the process the right way. So with that, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the motion passes. Thank you. Good luck, gentlemen. Okay, this brings us to item number 11, Planning Commission recommendation on zoning ordinance text amendments preserving and replacing existing trees. First reading. Mr. Fournier, you're talking.
This recommendation from the Planning Commission really started with the City Commission as being one of your goals and a report that you had received from city staff that was looking at tree canopies and tree coverage in the City of Royal Oak. As part of that goal and recommendation under that report, one of the things they looked at, or the report looked at, was potential changes to the text of the zoning ordinance in terms of preserving and replacing existing trees. So that's the real start of this recommendation that's now coming from the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission does have to hold a public hearing on any of the text amendments that come through the zoning ordinance. They have met on this particular text amendment on several occasions, discussing parts of it. At their January meeting, they were finally comfortable with recommended adoption of the text amendments to the Commission. The text amendments would require the replacement of existing trees if they're removed as part of a site plan or development proposal. They'd have to replace any tree that's removed at a 2-to-1 ratio. When I say any tree that is removed, they have to be of a certain size as defined in the text amendment. If they're considered saplings or they don't meet the height and size requirements, then they wouldn't count towards ones that would have to be replaced. We also looked at various terms that were contained within the landscape and screening standards, and there were changes recommended to various things, including the definition of caliper, the diameter at the breadth of the height of the tree, shrubs, deciduous trees, and other things. Even the term Plan Commission has been changed to Planning Commission to go along with the ordinance that created the Planning Commission. So there were a lot of terminology change and some definition changes added. It also added a requirement that as part of any landscape plan that's currently required as part of a site plan development proposal is that they provide a tree survey of existing trees on site or identify those that are going to be removed. In the past, that's been done on a sporadic or requested basis. Now it's a requirement of every submission if you pass this. There were other items that were addressed as we went through this section because it dealt with screening, the number of trees and types of trees required in parking lots, the separation between non-commercial and residential uses, and some definitions. I won't go through all of them here. One of the items that was also looked at that was a little different was in regards to a requirement for ground-mounted units in residential zones or residential districts that they would only be allowed in rear yard. Currently, you can put air conditioning units and generators in your side yard. This was one area where I think staff's looking for more input. Commissioner Lavasser did bring up a point that this overall ordinance is intended for, this ordinance section is intended for projects that are going through site plan approval. And most 1- and 2-family homes don't go through that process. They're not required to. This was kind of a carve out to try and keep screening and landscaping provisions in the same area. But it may make more sense that if the commission decides you want to prohibit air conditioning units and HVC and generators from a side yard, we may want to move it to general provisions rather than in leaving it in this section. But I'd look for direction from the commission. Number one, do you want that provision? Because it will create non-conforming situations where people already have those in their side yards, and it will create more review and potential variance requests to be allowed to do that. So if we get sporadic calls about the noise of air conditioning units and complaints of why they're allowed there. Staff's not 100% that we need this provision, but it's come up on various other meetings, so we've put it in, but I'm looking for your direction. The ordinance also, as I said, created some standards for the size of trees and types of trees that would be allowed. It redefined what was already in there to make it clearer in some sections. It also established procedures for the Planning Commission to grant exceptions to these requirements. Rather than requiring it to go to the Zoning Board of Appeals, the Planning Commission is part of site plan approval if the petitioner provides subsequent information to the Planning Commission's discretion and non-discretion items. They can grant some relief from these landscaping and screening requirements. There's also a section in that kind of came from the City Commission in terms of a payment in lieu of replacement trees, which that agreement would come up to the City Commission if a developer could not replace 2 for 1. They would have an opportunity to come to the City Commission and try to get an agreement with the Commission to pay a dollar amount per tree that they couldn't replace into a tree replacement fund. There's no specific dollar amount or procedure in the zoning ordinance because staff in reviewing this saw that procedure changing and the fees potentially changing more often. And if you stick it in the zoning ordinance, you've got a lot of steps to go through to make revisions. So we thought it would be easier for the commission to establish its own procedure if you wanted to have that option for a payment in lieu outside of the zoning ordinance. One of the other items that I will point out that Commissioner Lavasser brought up in his review and comment was the article number that should be referenced in throughout the document should be Article 6. I believe there are several locations where it refers to it as Article 4. All the section numbers are correct, but for some reason whether a typo or just oversight, it's various places it refers to Article 4. That's kind of a summary. I know there's a lot of items in here, but if you have questions, I'd be happy to address them.
Questions from Mr. Twing? Commissioner Macy.
I saw in one of the review documents that there had been a concern that the developer could clear cut and then come forward and say, oh, here's the plan, and it would say, look, no existing trees. But I couldn't figure out how we fixed that problem.
We haven't.
Oh.
I don't have a tree ordinance that says you can't remove trees in Royal Oak. I have a site plan standard that if you have to go through site plan approval, then you have to comply. But there is no tree ordinance that requires any property owner city approval to take down their trees. I have no mechanism to.
Commissioner Dubak.
Did we not pass a tree ordinance that regulated everything except for private residential?
That I'm aware of, no.
When we had that long discussion and there were the 3 options and we picked the one option, is this the resulting detail?
Well, this is the result of the zoning ordinance amendment portion. The tree ordinance simply refers to removal of trees in the public right-of-way. You can't take trees in the public right-of-way down, but I'm not aware of any provision that keeps a private property owner from taking them down. if you have site plan approval, and we have a site plan with a landscape plan in place, and you take a tree down, then we go out through code enforcement, say you're in violation of the site plan, and you gotta put the tree back, just like any other code violation. But if you haven't gone through site plan approval and you wanna just clear cut the site, I don't have any ordinance that I'm aware of that keeps a private property owner from doing so.
Okay. Well, then we need to address that. I mean, the entire intent here is not just to ensure that.
It might be an ordinance Mr. Gillum writes rather than me.
Right. I guess I'll have to go back and look at what we had voted on. I remember we had a lengthy conversation with a long recommendation with several options last year.
Right.
Is this the only resulting change from that conversation?
This one's the only one that drives them.
That's in your
me.
wheelhouse. Okay. Well, then would something like this be in the? This would be more in the neighborhood of a tree ordinance, I guess, as opposed to this. But what we do have here, in the case where they have not just gone and around our system by clear cutting before they even come to you, at the very best, so we're getting 2 trees planted to one. It makes reference to similar size. Is that similar? They have to replace it with trees of a similar size. Does that mean once they're fully grown? I assume not. Similar.
No, if your site survey, your tree survey, which is one of the requirements now, is you have to provide one. Generally, that tells you the type of tree, the species of tree, the size, the caliper, the dimensions of the tree. That's part of the required survey. If your survey says you're taking that tree down, or you have to take it down because that's where a building or something's going, similar size is whatever that tree is.
Right now? Right now. Okay. So to the greatest extent possible, the trees are going to be required to replace with 2 trees of similar size.
Right. Well, you're 2 for 1, so you'd have to replace that one with 2.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
And if the size, it talks about if the size is not available, then the planning commission may be able to say, you know, if you can't get a 30-inch tree, you might have to put in 4 that are equivalent to that, or a certain number in addition to it.
Okay.
But the intent was, if you can find an available tree of the same size, you gotta put 2 of them in.
Okay. And I think that's good as far as a preservation mechanism, but where we have, say, large, well-established grandfather trees, is this the place where we would consider talking about a fee for removing those trees, for having protected trees on this property? And if you remove a grandfather, 100-year-old tree, that there's a removal fee for that. That would be in a tree ordinance that would exist outside of this.
Mm-hmm. There is a provision under the exceptions portion of this, so if the planning commission is reviewing the landscape tree preservation plan, and the petitioner says, I can't meet it because of whatever reason, and they want to pursue the option of coming to the city commission and pay a fee in lieu of replacing those trees pursuant to this, that provision is in here to that level. It doesn't say what the fee is going to be. It doesn't say what the procedure is going to be. As I was indicating, I view that changing on a more regular basis than the zoning ordinance. So if you found provisions weren't working, you could change those provisions, and you could also change the fee that you're collecting.
Sure.
Because that's really a city commission function. It's not a zoning issue. Collecting of the fee is not a planning commission or a zoning issue. So we left it out of the zoning ordinance.
Okay.
And just some follow-up from the planning commission. I mean, our intent was, we see projects that come in front of us all the time where you just need a little bit of flexibility. If there's a really good project, there's a tree, and because they have to comply with another, easement or right-of-way or something like that, it doesn't mean we say yes, but we talk about it, we have a conversation, we can say no, but it leaves that a little bit of room in the spirit of saying, okay, if this tree goes, we're gonna double down, triple down, whatever our decision is in the investment in more trees in the community if it's necessary. So we have the ability to do some trade-off, recognizing that in a few percentage of cases, we may run into a awkward dilemma.
Well, and I'm okay with there being an exemption provision where someone could maybe pay a fee that we put into the tree fund so we can get trees planted elsewhere. What I'd like to do is be a little bit more aggressive, actually, where it is feasible. I want there to be an incentive for a developer to work around existing trees that are irreplaceable.
So, I mean, maybe I can put all developers on warning. If you clear cut a piece of property, the attentiveness of my ears is going to be very limited as one member of the planning commission. I don't know how others feel, but.
There's something to be said about breeding a culture, but I'm looking about putting something in the letter of the law here.
Planning Commission the provision's written such that the Planning Commission has to determine that it's okay for them to come to you for an exemption. So if the Planning Commission says this tree is too important and you have to keep it, that's part of their site plan approval, and that would be a condition of their approval is you have to leave this tree and keep it.
Well, I guess the conversation I want to have would have to be in the context of a tree ordinance, because what I want to get at is, even if you're replacing two for one, if you've removed, 100-year-old tree, there's a community cost to that. There's a loss to all of us that's not being replaced. And I would like for there to be a financial incentive for someone, planning a site to work around such a tree if possible. And I feel like placing a value on that tree where if that tree is removed, there's a fee to that. But I think that, I guess my understanding is that would exist in a tree ordinance and not in our.
Yeah, because if you have a piece of private property before you have any plans to modify it or do anything, you have the right to, I had to cut down a dead cherry tree at one time, So I think you have to tackle this in two parts.
Sure. And the Environmental Advisory Board, I know, is looking closely at this, at potentially recommending some sort of tree ordinance that would, I think, get at what I'm talking about.
Commissioner Gibbs had something.
I'm kind of confused as to why the air conditioning part is in here, because the title of this has nothing to do with generators or air conditioning. So I think if it's possible, I would recommend that the whole 5 times it's listed in the document kind of just be set aside.
Well, the provision that's in the landscaping provision right now is screening of exterior electrical equipment and transformers. So there is a provision in there that's dealing with equipment outside of a building.
Okay, maybe I didn't see that.
It's right where we were adding it under item J 1 and 2 primarily, and then there were 3, 4, and 5 added, but we stuck it in here again because that's where screening and landscaping was already dealt with, and this is where other electrical equipment was dealt with. The question I really have is, as Commissioner Vassar brought up, the lead-in statement in this section of the ordinance is that these provisions are intended to apply to those that go through site plan approval. And the 1 and 2 family, under item 3, I believe it is, on residential zones, aren't going to go through site plan approval.
Or existing homes, correct?
Right.
Okay, thank you for explaining that.
So the first question is, do you want that provision? And then 2, we could either move it out of here or clarify that it only applies to single-family homes.
I think adding the clarification would suit our needs or my needs or Commissioner Levassar's and my needs.
Commissioner Prush?
Well, I had a very similar question about the same kind of issue. Because if we adopt this as it is written right now, if I'm understanding this correctly, existing residential homes that have an air conditioning compressor on the side of their house, which is in the side yard, whenever that air conditioning compressor would have to be replaced, they would have to move it out of that location and put it into the backyard. To me, my view is that would place a significant hardship on an awful lot of houses who have put a deck back there, who have put a garage back there, who've put goodness knows what else back there, and there is absolutely no location. I can think of 2 of them in my immediate neighborhood where it would be extraordinarily difficult, if not impossible, to move that system. Now, granted, they could go for a variance, but just having to have them go through that, I just think that would put too much of a hardship on existing current homes. I can see when you have new house construction requiring it to be in the backyard, but to require them to move the location whenever a compressor had to be replaced, to me would be too much of a hardship.
Commissioner Vassar?
Mr. Gillum and Mr. Twing and myself had kind of a long email discussion on this particular topic, and I came away with that, with the belief that Mr. Gillum believes that what was being presented to us today would only involve those matters that go before the Plan Commission for site approval, site review, and that people who have pre-existing units, AC units next to their home side lot and simply want to replace old obsolete equipment would not fall within this. And that's my understanding of what we have here before, is that those situations would not fall within this proposed ordinance change. And as long as that's the case, I'm fine with it. I do believe that if we wanted to discuss those other scenarios, that should be a topic for another day. I would not want to move forward today in creating something that could create a great hardship for a lot of people without extensive discussion on that topic. But I'll let Mr. Gillum speak for himself, but that was my understanding of our email discussion.
Yeah, Commissioner Levasseur is correct. Based upon a quick review of the draft amendment, in my opinion, it would only apply to property that was going to be subject to site plan review, so that specifically would not include 1 and 2 family. It would include multiple family and other classes of use, but not 1 and 2 family as written.
Okay.
Commissioner Macy.
So it sounds to me like even if it's useless, that it doesn't belong here, because why would we have a useless provision or something that doesn't regulate anything? But I just want to add that I don't love it in general, even if it were in the right spot and regulating the right people. I don't like the idea of this for the reasons that have already been mentioned. And I think if this is a problem that we have, it seems like couldn't we solve it with the setback issue instead of saying you can't have them in the side yard, you can't have them so far from the adjacent home in the side yard. You don't have to answer that, I was just saying.
It's a rhetorical question.
Yeah, it was rhetorical.
Okay. We were trying to get the emphasis on the question at the end, and it's right there in the middle, so thank you for the clarification. Okay. Commissioner Prush.
The only other thing I would throw out was when we were discussing earlier the concept of a tree ordinance, which is separate, certainly, than a zoning ordinance, which this is, excuse me, provisions or revisions to. There are a number, well, no, not a number. There are some other communities in the area that have tree ordinances that specifically regulate whether or not you can take down trees, and if you do, what you have to replace them with, so on and so forth. West Bloomfield has one that's very extensive. I will just add that it becomes very, very complicated in a lot of situations. What if the tree is a nuisance tree because its roots are going into your basement? You know, can you take it down? What if they are trees like ash trees? One of our neighbors had to take down 12 ash trees in their yard because they were diseased. How do you cover those kinds of situations? Do they have to plant 12 new trees? So it's not as simple as, well, if you're taking down a tree, you must replace one. Ta-da, you're done. There's a lot of variables. There's a lot of exceptions. There's a lot of things to consider in that. So it's a complicated topic. To the extent that the Environmental Board is going to tackle it, I commend them for being willing to tackle it. But it's a lot more complicated, I think, than it seems at first glance.
Commissioner Macy.
I'll move for acceptance of the resolution excluding the ground installation of HVAC section, which I know I need to tell them exactly where that is, but I don't have it. Any help, Mr. Twing?
Subparagraph 4, 770-90K.
What she said.
In the narrative description of these, I'm not looking at the actual ordinance.
Well, if I understand
Here it
them,
is. Sorry, subparagraph J.
if I understand the motion correctly, item J3 would be the only one that somewhat relates to single-family homes in residential zoning districts. What I'm going to suggest is that item 3 and 4 will get blended under J, so that it's clear that it's only those that are going through site plan approval, and does not apply to single-family homes or two-family homes. Is that correct, where you want to go?
That makes sense.
Sounds good.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
Does everyone understand the motion?
And which option are you making?
Commissioner Macy say it again?
Those are your options.
Oh, yeah, I gotta go back to my options.
Page 3 of the PDF.
Really?
Right there, right there.
Oh, I see, okay. So no, wait. I don't know if I'm referring it back. No, I'm adopting, doing number 2. I'm adopting the zoning ordinance text amendments upon first reading with the amendment discussed, and I'd like to schedule a public hearing prior to final disposition. Although I have to say, the public hearing part I was more interested in when I was worried about the HVAC. I'm not open to discussion on that, obviously.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Macy. Is there support or a second?
Let me make sure I understand the motion. It's to adopt the ordinance with some change to the part that deals with the HVAC. Is that accurate?
I believe it's those, what you're proposing, Commissioner Macy, is the ordinance amendments, with exception of those amendments proposed in here regarding single-family residential issues pertaining to the location of HVAC and accessory energy units to the side of the.
Which we've determined is J3, which will then be combined with J4. There's mud.
So the language would be modified to specifically make it very clear this doesn't apply to the single-family and two-family homes. Is that the motion? I'll support that.
Okay, we have
So I
a
think
motion made by Commissioner Macy, supported by Commissioner Levasseur. Discussion, Commissioner Macy?
So I think I've stumbled through my reasoning for this already. I don't think the HVAC thing, I'm not quite sure why paragraph 3 really needs to be in at all, but I understand if we want to combine it with paragraph 4 just to make sure that it is relevant to this section and not referencing single-family homes. And then the public hearing, I think, there's a lot of changes here, and it seems like it's something that if someone might have an opinion on, and I'd like to hear what they have to say.
Commissioner Levasseur?
What she said.
That's it. Commissioner Perush?
That was my question, was whether or not you included the public hearing in your motion.
I
Okay.
did, yeah.
You did, okay.
Okay, any further discussion? I see Commissioner Douglas?
Well, I'll just say, I don't necessarily feel like a public hearing is necessary because so much of this affects commercial developers. And I don't know that we're gonna get a whole bunch of them coming in to comment on it. I'll vote for the motion. But if this were more about residential, then I would think it would be more of an issue. I don't think we're gonna get a big turnout.
Any other discussion, comments? Okay, with none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion passes. That wraps up our time with Mr. Twain. All right, this brings us to item number 12, Special Assessment Standard Resolution 5, 2017 Sidewalk Improvement Program, Phase 1. And Mr. Callahan.
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. Before you tonight, we have Standard Resolution 5 for Phase 1 of the 2017 sidewalk target area. Phase 1 is all the properties that had replacement of sidewalk that currently exist, and one property that had new sidewalk installed before the lawsuit occurred. So all of those properties are listed in here. The costs associated to each property is the cost based on the unit rate that the commission approved at the beginning of the program, multiplied by the square footage of work that occurred at each property. Standard Resolution 5 includes something a little bit unusual that you may not have noticed before. It includes a payment plan for those people that requested it and a provision for a one-time billing. And as you can see through 19 pages and over 2,700 properties, 8 properties previously requested a payment plan there at the very beginning on page 1 of 19 in the attachment. The remaining properties did not request a payment plan. I have talked with Mr. Johnson, and we are going to continue to offer a payment plan. It will require us to bring back a revised standard resolution number 5. So as the bills are prepared and sent out, the letter that goes with those bills or the notation on the bill will say, if you still want to get a payment plan, please contact us to fill out the appropriate form in a certain amount of time, and we will put you on a standard resolution 5 and bring it back to the city commission.
Any questions for Mr. Callahan? Commissioner Douglas?
So I went out to the website, the page that talks about sidewalks, and there's a copy of the letter that gets sent to households in April, very clearly labeled, notice, do not discard this letter, being, well laid out, lots of big print and so forth. But it doesn't at any point say, let us know by September 30th if you're gonna wanna work out a payment program. Is there an attachment that goes with this letter? Because I saw another document that said, hey, if you want a payment program, here's how you do it. But that does not accompany this letter.
It doesn't, it's not stated in the letter. It was on previous letters in previous years, but through the revision of the letter that went out this year, on the page 2 of that letter, it says, if you are interested in a payment plan, go to the city website, romy.gov/sidewalks, and it's right there on that page, right there in the middle of your screen. It says, if you're interested in a payment plan, go to the website. So it was, and we did get people to sign up for payment plans, obviously not that many, but we did get some people that actually read the letter, went to the website, and did the payment plan. But needless to say, the opportunity will be there for people that have, that will be getting the bill to go and apply for that payment plan. And we will take those applications between now and that time. So anybody that wanted to fill one out now, we would take that as well, add to that list.
Okay, good, thank you.
Sorry. Any other questions for Mr. Callahan? Commissioner Lavasser?
Mr. Callahan, could you explain to us a little bit about the procedure if people didn't believe that particular flags needed to be replaced, what the procedure was for review for residents?
So property owner calls our department to make an appointment. The gentleman, my engineer that's in charge of the sidewalk program, goes out and meets with that person, explains why each and every sidewalk flag has been marked. Now, you have to bear in mind, and I know that several people weren't here in the past, so in the fall of 2016, we went out and surveyed all the sidewalks in the target area and marked sidewalks, and came back in the spring, and oftentimes, after we had sent out the initial estimates to people, we got to a piece of property and there was more work to be done or less work to be done, and we would revise a person's estimate. So at that time, my engineer is meeting with the homeowner, explaining why each and every sidewalk is marked and for what reason. There's an opportunity for those people to also appeal, is when I go out and take a look at it. I don't go out with anybody else, and I look at the markings and I see if it meets the criteria. The criteria was established by the commission. We don't deviate from those criteria. There are times when it's a little bit on the line with some pitting issues or what have you, but not with the cracks, not with the lifted sidewalks, and not with anything broken.
Were there any situations where flags were removed from the program after review by you or by your staff?
That, through the appeals process that I personally changed?
Either through
yes,
the engineers
many
yourself?
instances where property owner or a property's estimate was changed based on discussions at that level.
Okay. Now, if someone was dissatisfied with your decision, did they have recourse? Did they have some process to follow through at that point?
A lot of those people came to the city commission, but the criteria is the criteria, and our staff and our department make sure that that criteria is very clear and we can explain it to people. People don't like the program to begin with. So we obviously have certain small number of people that just disagree with everything that we say.
Okay, so they have their opportunity to express themselves, but there's no formal appeal process from a decision that you would make.
Once it's gone through a second review and the estimate has been determined in which sidewalk flags would be removed at that point in time, that's kind of the end of the process.
Any other questions for Mr. Callahan? Commissioner Dubak?
Yeah, Mr. Callen, there's a lot of questions about the criteria we use, and I know we've been through this multiple times over the life of this program, but could you speak a little bit to the preventative nature of what we're doing and why a hairline crack across a slab that doesn't present a hazard right now is reason for removing a slab?
Right. We started a sidewalk program in 1995 and finished it in 2006. And then we took 5 years off and started a new program, or 6 years off and started a new program in 2012. Between the time of the first people in 1995, and we kind of started in the same general area in 2012, quite a few years had passed. We are not getting to these properties that regularly to review the sidewalks. So a hairline crack in 1 year can be a major problem several years later. And if we're not getting around to them every 6 to 10 years, we want to make sure that we've addressed any issue that we come across at the time that we're there.
Commissioner Macy?
There have been a lot of complaints about the contractor work, subcontractor work. First of all, it's your team who does all of the choosing of the slabs, right?
That is correct. Nobody but engineering department staff.
So when the subcontractor comes out to the home, if they see another slab they think needs to be repaired, can they just do it?
No.
And how do you handle complaints about the subcontractor and sloppy work?
Our inspectors are notified of any complaint and are obligated. They're obligated, I tell them, you need to go back out to every single one of these complaint locations, find out if there's truly a problem with the contractor's work, and direct the contractor to address it.
And if there is a problem with the work, is there ever a refund to the homeowner of the billing for that?
No, the contractor is on the hook till he fixes every complaint. And if he's on the hook for 3 consecutive years to fix someone's grass, he's on the hook for that long of a time.
But the bill goes out
The bill goes out.
this year.
Mm-hmm.
And after today, when we sign this, if we pass this resolution, there's no further recourse for them to get a refund.
The people that have given us letters and come to this meeting to, in a word, protest this billing and assessment, they have the right to go to the State of Michigan Tax Tribunal and appeal to them directly.
Okay, and when were they notified? So we got a bunch of letters and so on. When did they get the notice that they had to come or send a letter by today in order to get that right of the tax tribunal?
Roughly 2 weeks ago. Some of the letters were sent out 2 weeks ago today, and some of the letters were sent out the week prior. And it was done on a postcard format.
Commissioner Douglas?
Yeah, I will point out that we used a different contractor this year than we did in previous years, and while there have been complaints about contractors, sloppy work, so on and so forth, the volume of it does not hold a candle to what we heard from the contractor a year ago. I mean, I don't even know if we doubled our payments, if we could guarantee that our contractor would meet everyone's satisfaction and exceed everybody's expectations. But really, I've been surprised over the course of the summer at the few complaints we had about the quality of their work.
Anybody else hasn't spoken yet? Okay, I had Commissioner Lavasser next, and then Commissioner Dubak.
Thank you. Regarding, I presume the objective is to get this on the July 1st tax bill.
Yes.
All right, well, what is and perhaps this is a better question for finance or for Don, but from a timing standpoint of us making a decision, when do we have to make our decision on this assessment roll or the component parts of this assessment roll in order to effectively accomplish that mission by July 1st?
I don't know what the exact date would be, but I don't think we're anywhere near it.
Okay. All right, a couple other questions. I know there's been some discussion about continuing to offer payment plans, and the question is whether you're able to do that on your own or if you need action by this body here in order to do that, or if you already have.
It would require you to approve it through a new standard resolution number 5, but that just means that he will include it in the billing letter, people that respond, he'll put on the list and bring back to you for a future.
Okay. I noticed that the letter that has been used, or the agreement that has been used, has basically said, okay, we'll enter into this payment plan, but you, the resident, are giving up your right to go to the tax tribunal. I'm wondering if,
It doesn't say that. It says you.
maybe I'm paraphrasing it.
It doesn't say anything about the tax tribunal. It says you waive your right to a public hearing. So, we offer public hearings for standard resolutions 3 and standard resolutions 4, where people can come and speak on the necessity and speak on the assessment. But these are people that are volunteering to be billed in a payment plan. So we don't necessarily need to hold a public hearing to discuss that if everybody that would attend would be in favor, because we're only obligated to notify the people that want the assessment payment plan. So it doesn't have anything to do with the tax tribunal. It has to do with having a public hearing in front of this body.
Okay, so if, let's say they couldn't afford to pay everything up front, but they still thought that there were legal reasons why they shouldn't have to pay it at all, they could enter into the payment plan and still preserve those rights to go to the tax tribunal. That's what you're saying there.
Sure, but I was, the assessor gave me something, and I want to make sure that I read it tonight, that you have to appeal to the Michigan Tax Tribunal directly, so there's no other action that they would do with the city of Royal Oak right now, and they have 30 days from tonight, if this becomes approved, to do that.
30 days or 35 days?
I have a letter that he printed up, it says 30. So, you know, maybe there is 5 more days, but it's recommended to get it in because of their timelines to process those things, but.
Mr. Johnson?
We're getting into things that basically amount to my city engineer giving legal opinions, which I would prefer to get from my city attorney.
Well, and there are specific jurisdictional requirements in terms of the timeliness for filing with the tax tribunal. But that's really that's a matter between the individual taxpayer and the tax tribunal.
Right.
I'm not going to advise the taxpayers as to how much time they have to file an appeal. That's an issue that I believe should be addressed directly with the tax tribunal or with an attorney of their own choosing, so.
Well, I'm sorry.
Sure, guys.
I know with regard to when the notices of assessment go out and people have the opportunity to appeal to the Board of Review, that if, once the Board of Review makes a decision, there's a notice that goes out saying, here's what we say, and if you don't like it, here's your deadline to appeal to the tax tribunal. And I'm just wondering why we might treat this one differently.
Well, that's more of a policy question than a legal question, I suppose. So if the city wants to generate another notice with, after the role is confirmed, assuming the role is confirmed, but we're not required by law to do that.
Just so you know, we are prepared to do that if we have to. We have the list of the properties, the people that spoke here tonight, and if they hadn't already sent in a letter, we have all those letters as well. There's about 10 total that I'm aware of.
Commissioner Dubuck?
Yeah, I think just to Commissioner Douglas's point, someone had raised the issue of quality control. And this program that we've been running for the last 6 years has touched literally everyone in the city. So every single person's been touched. So inevitably, when you have a program that with that kind of scope, there are going to be errors here and there. But I would say the margin of error, one that we've heard from, is basically immeasurable if you consider a city of 60,000 people and the number of residences and properties that have been touched. Even if you assume only a tenth of the people who have experienced a negative issue have raised that voice, it still shows, I think, overwhelmingly as far as margin of error and quality control goes, that by and large, the program has been successful in replacing slabs that people deem should be replaced. As far as the other legal action and what's pending before us tonight, I see no compelling reason not to move forward with this. There's 30 days if folks want to appeal to the tax tribunal.
Well, there's some period of time.
There's
some period
of time. Right, some period of time that we are not saying that we know what that is. But
I'm sorry, Commissioner DeBuck, what I'm saying is, I'm not going to provide legal advice to the residents as to what their rights are.
Understood.
So.
And I don't know exactly what that period of time is either. several of the complaints that we've heard about people not supporting, like, this slab doesn't need to be removed. Mayor Fournier and I spent hours and hours and hours meeting with people in their living rooms, talking to them about the criteria, revising the criteria, making more specific criteria. That criteria is in place. I know that we've been comfortable with that criteria as a commission going forward. I don't think litigating it over, basically assessing for cost of work that's been done is, I think we've already kind of treaded over that territory before. So I'll move for the resolution contained in the letter. Yeah.
Commissioner Johnson, or Mr. Johnson.
Promoting me, huh? One thing that I wish I'd caught when I went through this originally, that I would prefer, the resolution that's in the cover letter is a resolution adopting a resolution. I think you should just adopt the resolution. So go immediately and adopt special standard resolution number 5, not the resolution that's in the letter.
Okay. So I move to adopt standard resolution number 5.
A motion by Commissioner Dubak. Is there support? Okay, supported by Commissioner Perush. Commissioner Dubak, anything more to add?
No, I mean, I think this is a standard order of business that we've done dozens of times over the last 6 years, and I think it's appropriate to move forward.
Commissioner Perush?
I hate this program. The citizens don't like this program. It drives us crazy every single year that we've done it. And we spend a whole lot of time moving this project forward. Sidewalk improvements and sidewalk repairs absolutely have to be done. There's no question about that. For the city's liabilities perspective, for our insurance perspective, for the residents' safeties, it has to be done. We can't avoid fixing the sidewalks. But this program of going out and marking and getting into deep, extensive discussions as to whether or not this particular flag gets replaced or this one doesn't, and then the tremendous cost that is placed on individuals to replace a number of sidewalk flags, especially if you live on a corner or you have a large lot, is enormous, even when you do a payment plan. I mean, it's a huge cost. There is only one other way that other cities handle this, and that is they have a special millage, and I know millage is a terrible word to utter, but Clawson, for example, has like 1/10 of a mill that they devote exclusively to sidewalk improvements. They just levy the millage, and the city just fixes the sidewalks. There's none of this, you have to do 7 flags this year, and your turn might be next year, so, put some money away. They just fix the sidewalks. They take that millage money and they just fix the sidewalks, and there's no argument about it. And I hope that between now and when we start this program up again, that we at least take a serious look at that option, because there is really no other option, because the money has to come from somewhere. We're spending millions of dollars on an annual basis, or 2-year basis, fixing sidewalks. So it has to come from some source, but I really think that given the difficulties that this program presents to us as elected officials and staff, and the amount of time that residents have to deal with it, I just think there's got to be a better way. So I hope we take a serious look at another funding mechanism just to get this done. It's got to get done. You can't argue about the fact that we just can't. We can ignore sidewalks for a while. We can't from a liability perspective. I mean, we know we have paid out big bucks to certain situations where there were some serious injuries because someone fell on a sidewalk that we missed. The one underneath the railroad overpass springs to mind. Who inspects under the railroad underpass? Anyway, I just hope we take a serious look at it between now and the next time we get started with this program.
Commissioner Gibbs.
I just have a question for clarity. This says the 2017 sidewalk improvement program. Have these sidewalks already been installed?
Yes.
Okay, that's, I just wanted to make that clear. So people are not paying ahead for work that might or might not be done depending on when the snow falls next year, or this year, sorry. Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Macy.
So I agree with Commissioner Perush about the necessity of this program and also the general hatred of it. And I hate to be the newbie commissioner here, but the thing that disturbs me about this, and I know it's probably just because it's my first time going through this, but we received all these letters over the weekend and today, and we had public comment. And they were heartfelt, they were angry, they were emotional, And I didn't really even have time to process them, and I didn't respond to any. And to have them have 2 weeks to do that, and then for us to have to decide in 2 hours whether or not we're going to do anything about it without having had time to really examine it. And I do think, I mean, some of them were complaining about, oh, I shouldn't have had this removed. And some were complaining, I don't want to have to pay for it. But some of them had concerns that seemed to me like legitimate reasons that maybe their assessment should be reduced. And we haven't had time to consider that. And so I'm going to be voting against this tonight.
Commissioner Lavasser.
Thank you. One question I had with regard to the letters that we received, and like Commissioner Macy, I saw those, and there were various reasons stated by people as to why they believed that the assessment shouldn't be placed on their property. I'm wondering if there's a particular standard of review set by law that we as a commission are to take when we receive these type of objections from the public, whether it be in writing or in public comments like we saw tonight.
Commissioner, not that I'm aware of, no.
Okay. And I would join in, and perhaps this is a procedural thing that, because I was under the weather, I missed our parliamentary procedure meeting 2 weeks ago. But perhaps of the 10 or so persons that have filed their objections, perhaps those should be removed from this so that we can give it appropriate consideration, each of their concerns, and weigh upon those, make a determination as to each of their concerns, whether they have merits or shouldn't have merits, and then come back at another meeting, perhaps a special meeting for that purpose. Whether it's appropriate, I would make the motion to amend Mr. DeBuck's, Commissioner DeBuck's motion to remove those persons out and to have a special meeting specifically so we could consider in more, less of a time pressured, but an opportunity where we can truly give those concerns the attention that they deserve.
Real quick before we look for a second on that, Mr. Johnson.
Clarification. All of the comments that public comment focused on the necessity of the project. That's not the issue before you tonight. The commission has already voted that this project is necessary. So they've heard those objections, they voted it was necessary. The only issue before you tonight is the assessment.
There were some letters I thought talked more about the procedure and perhaps some sort of notice issues. So I think that those may warrant a different look.
Well, we have a motion for an amendment. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Commissioner Gibbs. Any discussion? We'll start with the motion maker, Mr. Lavasser, or Commissioner Lavasser. I don't know if you have any more to say.
As I mentioned, people, they take the time to write us letters, they take the time to speak to us. We should take the time to more fully understand their concerns and not just to, wave at them, say, tough, we're going to vote on you and we're going to include you in this big project without giving their concerns ample opportunity for consideration.
Commissioner Gibbs?
I echo Commissioner Lavasser's statement because he put it very eloquently.
I think we had Commissioner Douglas.
Yeah, it strikes me that there are due process issues at hand here. If we decide to change what is a very established over many years process and rehear just the people who sent us a letter or just the people who show up at the microphone, then 2 weeks from now, more people will show up at the microphone and then they're gonna say, well, you let the other guys, you gave them a break, so why don't you put it off for another 2 weeks? I think we need to maintain the process that we've been following and treat everybody fairly and not single people out in that fashion.
So due process is exactly my concern here, is I think they're not getting due process. They make these complaints and then they get so little time for consideration. Are we really considering them at all? And I think if we have a bad process, that doesn't mean we should keep doing it. We should be flexible and change that process. My complaint is I don't want a special meeting. Why do we have to have a special meeting?
Okay, I had Commissioner Dubuck next.
Sure, I think as previously stated that, folks have an opportunity to appeal the slabs that have been selected at the time they're selected. Many of them reach out to the commission at that time. We do the sidewalk tour, for new installations. But I know we get dozens and dozens of emails when slabs are selected. During that time, when they're talking to engineering, we get plenty of complaints about engineering, because if in the case where engineering comes out and says, yeah, this is why this meets this criteria, and then they'll come to us. So most of these people have already reached out to us at the time before the work was done. So then we still made the decision to move forward with the program, including 2 public hearings before the sidewalks are installed. So there's already been 2 public hearings. There's been not 30 days, but basically the work is selected for being done about a year in advance. Then from the time the slabs are marked until the work is actually done, how much time generally passes, Mr. Callahan?
The slabs are marked in the fall, usually the month of August and September, and we do our inspections, re-inspections in the month of April and May. Sidewalk construction starts in May, so the first sidewalks start in May, maybe the last week of April, right around the 1st of May, and this past year they finished in August, but in previous years they went on longer.
Okay. So, I mean, nearly a year passes between slabs being selected, opportunity to contact engineering, opportunity to contact the commission. This is why we've spent hundreds and hundreds of hours on this. I totally agree with Commissioner Perush that this process has been painful and we need to find a better way to do this. But to go back and say, all right, we're at the tail end of this process, even though it's been a year in the making, the work's already been done, we're gonna reconsider a decision that we had already made over a year ago, with no process or really real logic in place for that, other than empathy, which I empathize, but the time for that conversation has passed, the decision's already been made. There's a decision about whether or not the bills come out. As far as the notice, of the letters that I've read so far, a couple talked about notice about opportunity to opt into the payment plan. We've already said we're going to offer opportunity to opt into the payment plan. That's going to be done. People are going to be noticed again about that. I think that's important that we ensure everyone is aware that that's an option and that as many people who want to get on the payment plan are able to get on the payment plan. But otherwise, I oppose this amendment to the motion. I think we should move forward.
Commissioner Perush, should I see your?
No.
Okay. Commissioner Lavasser?
I agree with Commissioner Macy with regard to her perspective on due process here. We truly are not giving the residents who express their concerns, and procedurally, I guess getting that letter in, for this meeting tonight or appearing tonight procedurally is a requirement to go to the tax tribunal. But if we're simply not going to consider any of the concerns expressed, we're not honoring the purpose behind due process, which is to give people opportunity to be heard, give people the opportunity to have their concerns truly considered. And there could be some situations that truly warrant removing a particular property out of it for those who have expressed. I know Commissioner Macy expressed concerns about whether it should be a special meeting. I have no problem withdrawing that aspect if my second agrees and simply would direct these individuals to pick one of our meetings through the end of March in order to be heard, and we would consider them at those specific meetings. If Commissioner.
Well, Commissioner Lavasser, we have to address the amendment that's on the table at the moment. If it fails or succeeds, we can do another amendment within the motion. So it's already on the table. Commissioner Macy?
I believe for friendly amendments, if there's general assent at the table for the change, that's what she said.
I disagree.
There's no such thing as
I
a
don't
friendly amendment.
assent.
I was at the training too, but I have something else to say.
Okay, Commissioner Macy.
So this is just to address what Commissioner Dubak said, because I generally agree with him if what we were just doing were relitigating the sidewalk program and which slabs had been selected for all of these people, that's been decided many times over, and there's been many chances to make your complaint known. But maybe you've had time to review all the letters with enough depth to make sure that that's the case, but I haven't. And I know for at least one, there was someone who said that they had sent the formal complaint in, and then before they got a response back from the city, the slab was removed. Again, I haven't had time to go through all of them to see if there's any others that might seem like a valuable claim, and that's what I'm asking for here is time.
So I guess the only thing that I'll add is, I mean, I can echo everything Commissioner DeBuck said. We spent a lot of time when this first came to our attention. We were fortunate enough to first be elected on the first year of this sidewalk program, its reestablishment. And, you know, as you work through it, there's a process, and certainly you got to keep true to that for everyone that's gone through it. We all agree we don't like it. But once you start it, once you go, we need sidewalks, someone has to pay for those sidewalks. Decades and decades ago, it was decided that we were gonna use the assessment process. The assessments process is completely outlined, it's followed by our city staff. As it relates to, you know, the necessity, I agree that we covered that decision in some time past. As it relates to some of the complaints related to the payment plan, I believe we'll have a strong remedy for that. As it relates to the cost of it, you know, I guess, and even going back to some of those other things with necessity, I mean, we have a city engineering department that has, shall I say, decades of experience, Mr. Callahan?
21 years?
I don't want to call Mr. Callahan's tenure out too much and people try to infer his age, but he's youthful looking, but he's very experienced. So we have decades of experience. Going through this process, Commissioner DeBuck and I went through and we worked with the engineering department and we looked at and understood the reasons why things needed to be replaced. I'm the farthest thing from an engineer, okay, I'll admit. It's out. Just kidding. So, you know, we do have to rely, there are 2,700 properties here. We do have to rely on the system that's put in place by our experts, the folks on the ground that are doing this day out, day in, flagging, responding to concerns. If there's a pitting issue, if there's a cracking issue, whatever it may be, we have the experts out there. Not me, I'm not the expert. I can't go out there and look and say, oh, it's cracked. I don't know. I haven't been doing this for 25 years. You know, just like I couldn't give legal advice, that's why we have Mr. Gillum, correct? So I think, and Don, you have a role too sometimes, so. But, you know, for me, you know, we're at a point now where, you know, we do have the tax tribunal. And so each and every single one of these individuals will be able to go to that tax tribunal and say, okay, I paid too much, or, you know, I'm being overcharged. And that process is pure, that process is established, and it's with an independent body that can grant that decision. I don't know, I mean, up here, we can have the meeting and everything, I don't know what new information I'm gonna get to be able to disagree with our engineering department, who's been doing this for decades and who, you know, bids out the quotes and gets all the information prepared and actually knows what the actual costs were. So that's where I struggle. And I think that's why we have the tax tribunal, and I think that's why the state in its wisdom has created this, many states, to facilitate these sort of issues. So I won't be supporting the amendment, not because I don't have empathy for anyone. I mean, I've had to pay for my flags. It's frustrating, I get it. But I'm not sure that unwinding a process that, in putting more effort into this, more time into this when there is an established appeals process through the tax tribunal, I believe that's the appropriate place to do it, because I don't know that I'm gonna have personally any more information to make a better or different decision than what's already been decided. Going back, all the necessity things, I mean, we've been doing this for a year. We understand some people just don't wanna pay, you know, to have the sidewalks in, we get that, and some people may feel that they're paying too much, but again, the tribunal's the place for it. I'm not sure we're gonna get any new information that would persuade us to change. So, just to be clear, the motion on the table is an amendment to, Commissioner Lavasser, if I get it wrong, help me out here, to remove the property owners who put forward a letter in protest of the amounts here, and to have a special hearing or meeting to review those protests separately, correct?
It could be in writing, or it could have been those that appeared in person tonight as
Okay,
well.
in writing or in person, that have gone on the record?
That is correct.
Okay. All right, so a aye vote will be supporting that amendment. The no vote will bring us back to the original motion, which is presented here with a slight modification to not do a resolution of a resolution. Okay. Not complicated.
Not really. I'm sorry, it's late.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? No.
No.
May I see a hand of the noes? Okay, the motion fails. So that brings us back to the original motion made by Commissioner Dubak. Any further discussion? Commissioner Macy?
I'd just like to say if this is the process, then I think we should amend the process to make it be, you need to send a letter or something, somehow contact engineering, and then have started the timeline for the tax tribunal, rather than pretending that we're gonna do something about it up here if that's not in fact the case, if we're just gonna rubber stamp it because they have the tax tribunal as a backup. So I'm not making an amendment, it's just my note.
Okay. Any other discussion? Commissioner Dubak?
To reiterate, no one's rubber stamping anything. There were 2 public hearings last summer when these slabs were marked and assessed and the work was done. And there was a year between those public hearings and now when people could reach out to the commission. The tax tribunal has its own processes, which is not relevant to the business before this body.
Any other discussion? Okay, we have a motion on the table to move forward with standard resolution number 5 for the listed properties. If there's no further discussion, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
No.
Okay, hand of the ayes. Okay, the motion passes. All right, that brings us to item number 13, approval of appointments committee recommendations.
Rotation.
All right, that's Commissioner Perush, the chair.
The chair, who was drafted because no one else on the committee wanted to.
Just to be clear.
I
volunteered first.
For the record,
I
it
was
a motion.
volunteered for it. These specific things are in front of you because when the committee met initially and made the recommendations that you all handled a couple of weeks ago, there was some information missing concerning attendance and vacancies on both the Environmental Advisory Board as well as the Traffic Committee. And we didn't get clarified information on either one of those in time to make the list of recommendations that we gave you 2 weeks ago. So we decided, let's just hold them all and bring them back in 2 weeks, which is what we're doing. The committee met briefly and unanimously recommended the appointments for the vacancies and the reappointments in front of you. I think we have to do them by separate resolutions, but there was no discussion or dissent, at least in terms of the 3 of us on the committee, for any of these. So we'll first take the resolution for approving the following, filling the following vacancies. I'll make that resolution.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Perush. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Douglas. Commissioner Perush, anything more?
Nope.
Okay, any other discussion? Okay, with none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion passes.
And then I will move approval of the resolution for the reappointments in front of you.
We have,
That's the second one. I'll make that motion.
Would it be the second and or third one?
The second one, there's 3 here.
Second one, okay. So those are reappointments. We have a motion by Commissioner Perush, supported by Commissioner Dubak. Discussion? All right, with none, I'll call for the vote. Oh, Commissioner, sorry. With none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes.
And then the third resolution is the reappointments. Those 3 individuals, I'll make that motion.
A motion by Commissioner Perush. Is there support?
Support.
Supported by Commissioner Dubak, or seconded by Commissioner Dubak. Discussion? Commissioner Lavasser.
With regard to these committees, the Environmental Advisory Board and the Traffic Committee, were there other applicants that were denied appointment to these 2 committees?
In terms of other applicants that had applied for either one of these boards?
That is correct.
Certainly for the Environmental Advisory Board, yes, there were. However, in terms of the, both of the people that were recommending for the Environmental Advisory Board, we had current members of the Environmental Advisory Board saying, these 2 individuals are so valuable to the work that we do that if you're not going to reappoint them, please take me out instead. and put them in my place. We had 4 members of the Environmental Advisory Board volunteer to do that, and we didn't solicit that. We just got emails saying, if you're going to take them off, they're so valuable, take me out instead. So given that, we thought, all right, then these people are valuable enough that they should stay.
Okay, and with regard to traffic?
Traffic, pretty much the same. Dan Godek is chair of that traffic committee. He would like the opportunity to train his replacement, and given the fact that this probably will be his last term, he's going to dedicate himself to doing that. Given the specific tricky little issues that traffic deals with, he would like an opportunity to kind of groom, and he has someone in mind to take over his chair, but he needs a little bit of time to do that.
Okay.
Any other discussion? All right. With none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. All right, that brings us to item number 14, Appointments Committee rotation. Commissioner Dubak.
I'll move for the resolution.
Motion by Commissioner Dubak. Is there support? Supported by Commissioner Macy, I think. Yes, see? Okay, good. Any discussion? Commissioner Lavasser.
Are there currently, I know Mrs. Isaacson mentioned that there may be a opening on the Historical Commission. I'm wondering if there's other openings that would require the west side of this table to meet sometime in the short term.
Yes, I'm going to be sending an email out this week, along with applications.
Okay. And is there a particular process for us to determine when we're going to meet, or we just informally decide and let you know and we post it from
Pretty
there?
much, yep. Just let me know your dates that you're available and pick a date from there.
All right, thank you.
It's pretty ad hoc.
All right, any further discussion? With none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. All right, this brings us to item number 15, which is a request for a resolution in support of prevailing wage for city projects. I asked for this to be put on the agenda this evening. I know we've had a lot of discussions in past commissions and even this commission regarding prevailing wage, its importance to us, and more importantly to our city staff, whether we're talking about development agreements or we're talking about any sort of work done within our community. The discussion of prevailing wage comes up consistently. And I thought it'd be important that we give clear and decisive direction to our city staff via resolution. I did have discussion with some of my colleagues. Mayor Pro Tem Douglas also expressed a concern as well. And so we discussed this, and we thought this would be appropriate for this body to vote on, to make a decision, and give some clarity to our staff as they proceed with all the city projects that we have going on at the moment. At a personal level, I mean, we heard some public comment tonight. Certainly, in the opinion of several up here, maybe not all, but prevailing wage resolutions and work, really work to create a safer workplace. The statistics are indisputable. You do get a better quality of work product, which is important for all of the things that we have going on in this community. And more importantly, the quality work product that we have leads to a safer city for both our residents, visitors, business inhabitants, et cetera. I have some other comments that maybe I'll share afterward, but I'll open it up for discussion right now. Commissioner Lavasser.
I just want to get a little clarification, because as I read this, I didn't see it as pertaining specifically to city projects. I know the title of it talks about city projects, but you go to the now therefore clause, it's basically just talking about supporting laws that are pre-existing. And if I'm understanding correctly, the state laws that currently exist don't apply to city projects unless we're receiving funding from the state. So I just want to get clarification what the intent here is.
We are giving the city staff direction here that we support prevailing wage. And as we move forward with any sort of public-private partnership, any city project, that they'll understand that the conditions of those contracts shall have, or shall be negotiated, or shall be brought to us under the premise that prevailing wage is incorporated into that discussion, so we can vote on it. Commissioner Dubak.
Yeah, I'm curious, like Commissioner Lavasser, is the resolution and the conclusion of this resolution, is the therefore statement, is that sufficient to give staff that direction?
I think staff understands the intent. I would agree with Commissioner Lavasser that it isn't that clear to just read it, though. You might want to make it a little more clear if that's your intention.
Okay. I think we can modify the last sentence to make it more clear. Commissioner Douglas?
Yes, I'm glad that the resolution does not dictate that all projects be done on a prevailing wage basis. I think we want to leave ourselves the flexibility and leave the staff the flexibility and option. That said, I most assuredly support the resolution. The example I gave earlier of the sidewalk company from a couple of years ago and the quality of the work that they did compared to the one that we had more recently, by not establishing a prevailing wage rate, we invite our bidders to cut their costs based on what they pay their people. It's all well and good if they can get a better price for steel or concrete or whatever, but the variable in all of that is people. And if they're cutting their costs and cutting the wage of laborers who already may not be making a living wage, I think that's wrong. And I absolutely think that prevailing wage is not only good for the quality of the work that will come to our city, but for the role we play in making a better society.
Commissioner Lavasser. Let me get with Commissioner Macy. She hasn't spoken yet.
I just want to echo what has been said by some of the commissioners tonight, including what Commissioner Douglas just said, is that we encourage a race to the bottom if we don't support prevailing wage. We're encouraging people to cut their costs by cutting what they're paying the people. And here in Royal Oak, we want to be everything, right? We want to be providing great quality buildings, which is what we get out of prevailing wage. And we also want to be providing good work for people so that they can afford to live based on what they're earning, building us these fantastic high quality buildings. So very glad to see this resolution on the agenda tonight.
Commissioner Lavasser, I know you.
I think it's one of these things where you have to look at it on a case-by-case basis. There's certainly things in my personal life where I'm out there, I'm looking for the cheapest price possible for something. And then there's other times where the quality is going to come into play. I'm willing to pay a few extra bucks to get that quality. And I would just have a little bit of concern that this is, I don't know if tying our hands would be the proper terms, but not giving us the appropriate flexibility as a commission to make those determinations when it's price over quality or whether a particular situation calls for prevailing wage.
Commissioner Dubak.
I'll move in support of the resolution.
We have a motion by Commissioner Dubak, support by Commissioner Macy. Commissioner Dubak.
Sure. Thank you for bringing this forward, Mayor. I think it's absolutely essential that we commit ourselves to ensuring that anytime public dollars are at play, we are in business with firms and contractors that are treating workers fairly, and that their people are making a living wage, absolutely, because it yields a far better product for our residents, and therefore we are getting the biggest bang for our buck. But also, it's a question of values, and Royal Oak does not want to build itself on the backs of people who have to go home after helping build something in our city and actually can't afford to make their rent or put food on the table. That's just not a sustainable way to build a community. So I think it's absolutely essential that we commit ourselves to prevailing wage, both for the value it brings to our residents and the quality of products and the value we get for the dollar, but also because every person who works for a living deserves a living wage.
Commissioner Macy.
Yes, to everything that he was just said. And I just wanted to clarify that this resolution doesn't bind us to prevailing wage, right, the way an ordinance would.
It's giving staff the expression of what we value, why we value it, and what our expectations are anytime a particular project comes in front of us for public works and or any other situation that may merit it. So it doesn't tie our hands, but it does give staff instruction that out of the gate they know that this is a conversation starter, not a conversation afterthought.
Could we have the
Commissioner
rewording
Gibbs?
of the last paragraph if we're going to be voting on this?
It's in print in front of you.
I know, but then we just said we can
No,
modify
we
it.
didn't modify it.
Oh, I don't, could you repeat that, please?
Yeah, it says, "Now therefore be it resolved, the city of Royal Oak supports the continuation of prevailing wage laws and welcomes offers of voluntary agreements by owners, purchasers, or developers of property providing for prevailing wages on its public projects."
No, but we said that we were going to change it.
We did. That wasn't the motion made.
Oh, okay,
No.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, there's,
I suggested that if you wanted to actually mandate that all projects be always prevailing wage, that something stronger should be
Okay.
written in the final
Okay.
paragraph. But apparently, the commission is satisfied with
Okay.
something that's an expression of intent rather than a mandate.
any other discussion? Yeah, I'll just add, you know, we just simply can't cut our way to prosperity. There are no corners to be cut for success. Society, greed, continues to push us to get more for less. But when we all have less, nobody has more. And to me, this is about what our commission stands for, what this community stands for, what we stand for equality, what we stand for livable conditions, both in our community and for those who work in this community. We talked about how prevailing wage leads to a safer workplace, better quality of work, and of course, safer buildings for our visitors, our inhabitants to enjoy. I'm fully supporting this, obviously. I put this in front of us. If this passes, I'll be extremely proud of this commission. I think it's important that we give staff clear and concise direction of what our vision is and what our values are. And this is a step in the right direction for this city and this community. And it really espouses and will set another identity marker for who we are as a community. So if there's no further discussion, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Nay.
Can I see the hands of the nay? Okay, all right, thank you. All right, the motion passes. All right, this brings us to item number 16, which is the mayoral appointments. Each of you should have received a letter that City Clerk Callis presented to you. There was some confusion I had last week. I own it. I'm not going to put it on Ms. Hallis. It was not her issue. It was my confusion how I communicated to her what the appointments would be and that they would be ready for today's meeting. So there are a number of appointments here. First off, I did have conversations, and I appreciate Commissioner Gibbs, Commissioner Dubuck stepping up to serve on the Bicycle Pedestrian Task Force Committee along with Commissioner Douglas. I know she's already on it right now. And then as it relates to a couple other reappointments on the library board, Roxanne Plater and Scott Warheit, I want to reappoint them for another term on the library board. I had one more with Ann Vara, and she sits on she's the chair of the Planning Commission and Brownfield Commission. She is an exceptional asset to our Planning Commission. It's one of these commissions that we've discussed before where, you know, experience matters. There's a lot of training. It's something you can't do haphazardly. And I believe she is still the right person to help chair that committee. She also brings something very unique, which at least on my time sitting on planning, I feel is very, very important to us related to questions regarding environmental concerns, tree planting. She gets into, I don't say excruciating detail, that has a negative connotation, but she really goes the extra effort to make sure that those coming in before our Planning Commission have really given a thoughtful approach to our environment, stormwater management, these sort of things. And her professional expertise lends herself to that sort of wisdom and knowledge. And so I think at this juncture, with the things that we have going on, she's very much an appropriate choice to keep on the Planning Commission. Commissioner Dubuck?
I'll move in support of the mayor's recommended appointments.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Dubuck, supported by Commissioner Macy. Discussion? Commissioner Lavasser?
I just want to get a clarification. Are we reviewing the entire resolution, are we breaking it up into the two parts, the appointments and then the term limited reappointment?
I believe the motion was for all of the recommendations.
Do they have to be separate?
Whatever you want.
So I'm moving for both, yeah.
Any other discussion?
Yeah.
Commissioner Lavasser?
With regard to Ms. Vera, could you tell us a little bit about the experience level of the other members currently serving on the Planning Commission?
We do have some newer people, including myself, on the Planning Commission that have served, we have, actually, I shouldn't say that. We do have a couple new people, but we have a pretty good mix of experience, specifically with Commissioner Vara's appointment now. We'll have some seniority. We'll have some folks that are, I believe, now gaining their steam and their voice. And then, of course, we have some folks with lower seniority at the moment. Commissioner Douglas?
And we have an excellent, I think, balance of knowledge. We have an attorney who specializes in building projects and architecture. We have a builder. We have an architect. We have Ms. Vara, a strong background as an environmentalist. We have, who am I forgetting? Dan Godek, Mr. Godek, who served on this committee for a long time. He's a realtor.
Serves on traffic, understands a lot of
Right,
things with.
and myself and the mayor. So I think I've been very, actually, the opinions, the perspectives that collective body brings to the table are really, really valuable.
Commissioner Lavasser?
Well, I'm wondering, because the impression I've always had is that the Planning Commission is a well-desired position, and I'm just wondering how much input there is from other people in the community wishing to serve on this commission.
Well, I can tell you nobody reached out to me personally. I did talk to Ann Vara, so I can't say. I mean, yes, people do apply for it, but when an opening comes up, occasionally, like for the library board, people will reach out to me, but in some cases they don't. And you go through the applications, you take a look, and just like the committee, appointments committee goes through their process, I go through my own. It's not in isolation. I speak to a number of people about, their opinions, and, I come to a similar solution and then, or recommendation, and then, obviously this board has its say, and that's how we go. Any other questions, discussion? Commissioner Macy.
I'm just glad to see Roxanne and Scott on this, and I look forward to seeing them at the library board tomorrow.
And I'm sure Director Karshner is as well.
Yes, yes, she is.
Okay, and by the way, for the record, we do have one opening for the library board. I've gone through that one. I'm not filling because I am still going through, I narrowed it down to 3, but I went through over 50 applications. I'm going to do phone calls with those 3. If there anybody here out there that wishes to apply to the library board, I'll be making that final recommendation in about a week for the next commission meeting. So FYI, I haven't made a decision on that 3rd appointment for the vacancy for Mitzi Hoffman. Okay. With that, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion passes. So that brings us to Mr. Johnson's favorite time of the meeting, which is a motion to adjourn, if someone would like to make one. Commissioner Douglas?
Mayor, Commissioners, the business of the people having been concluded for the evening, I move we adjourn.
We have such an elegant motion by Commissioner Douglas. Is there a second? We have a second by Commissioner Dubuck. Is there any discussion on this wonderfully articulated motion? All right, with none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the motion passes. We are adjourned.
Thank you.